Chapter 420. Yunjioge picked up the teacup and moistened his throat. Then he said to Bao, I don't trust others. You should go ask yourself. Yes. Bao nodded gently and went out to inquire about the news. Because the commotion last night was too big, Bao easily heard about it. When she came back, her beautiful face still had a shocked expression. What's wrong? Yunjioge put down the teacup and asked. Miss, I've already inquired. Last night, Broken Jade Pavilion suddenly collapsed. The Emperor personally took people to extinguish the fire. Bao replied softly. What about Pear Garden? Yunjioge raised his eyebrows and asked. Bao blushed and said hesitantly, Pear Garden is fine, but what? Yunjioge frowned and his face darkened. Don't hesitate, say what you have to say. Yes. Bao saw that Yunjioge didn't look happy, so she quickly told him what she had heard. I heard that when the eunuchs in the watering room went to the pear garden to sweep the floor, they found the warlord hanging unconscious on the pear tree without any clothes on. Because warlord's position was too conspicuous, except for the eunuchs and maids who were responsible for taking care of pear garden, all the people nearby could see it clearly. They could even count the moles on warlord's body. Warlord was hanging naked on the tree? Yunjioge's mouth twitched. He inexplicably remembered the scene of those cultivators who offended Zishang in Yin-Corp's sect being hung. Zishang was really dirty when he was naughty. He didn't know where he learned this bad habit of taking off people's clothes when he was unhappy. Warlord took off his clothes himself, okay? Zishang was very dissatisfied. How could he be described as a pervert? He was kind enough to wrap a circle around Warlord's waist with leaves. Actually, he wasn't hanging. I don't know who knitted a grass leaf skirt for Warlord and put a big lotus leaf in the middle. Bao said with a blushing face. A big lotus leaf in the middle. Yunjioge didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was better to be naked. Miss, don't forget to tell others. It'll be bad if they hear it. Bao reminded him. Although the emperor was in charge of the harem, the war king was still the emperor's younger brother. It would be dangerous for him to lose his temper. I know. Pass down the order as well. Tell the people of Chuxiu Palace to shut up and not talk about this matter. Yunjioge ordered. Even though Bao memories had been sealed by Zishang, it was hard to guarantee that she would not suddenly recall the time when she was humiliated. I understand. Bao agreed with Yunjioge's order, so she went to do it. After Bao went out, Yusha sneaked in. Where did you go? He disappeared early in the morning. It's such a fun thing. Of course I have to go and see it myself. Yusha winked mischievously at Yunjioge and said with a smile, Bao didn't tell me everything just now. Actually, there's more to it. What else? Yunjioge asked with interest. After the warlord ran away, he went to the imperial study and made a scene with the emperor. Now he's grounded by the emperor, Yusha said in a low voice. Grounded? Can we still find him? Yunjioge wanted to have a good talk with the warlord. I've already sent him a message. He said that he'll find a chance to talk to you tonight. Yusha didn't go out just to watch the show. Then I'll wait for the good news, Yunjioge said with a smile. In order to have a smooth private meeting with the warlord tonight, Yunjioge even went to Uniquely to ask about Grey Emperor's whereabouts. Something happened at Broken Jade Pavilion last night. His Majesty will be very busy these few days. However, His Majesty is still concerned about you, so he asked you to let him know if you need anything. Don't make yourself feel wronged, Uniquely said respectfully. He didn't know that Yunjioge didn't consummate the night before. He thought to himself that the white-skinned noblewoman was different this time. She didn't immediately send her out to have her miscarriage checked. I understand. Thank you, Uniquely. Knowing that Grey Emperor didn't have time to care about her, she was completely relieved. After nightfall, Yunjioge sent all the palace maids and eunuchs away. Only Yusha stayed with her to wait for the warlord's arrival. It wasn't until midnight that Zishang reminded her, he's here. Yusha retreated to the back and hid. Now wasn't the time for her to show herself. Yunjioge smoothed out the wrinkles on her clothes, got up and opened the door. She saw the black-robed emissary wearing a white mask. Why are you here? Yunjioge frowned. She thought Warlord would come in person. She didn't expect him to send an emissary. How insincere. Good night, Miss Yun. His Highness Warlord is grounded by His Majesty and can't move. He could only send me as an emissary to negotiate with you. I wonder if you have anything to say to him? The masked man's voice was very gentle. It was easy to believe his words. I'm only talking to Warlord himself. I don't suspect anyone else. You may leave. Although Yun Jioga knew that this masked man was Warlord's good friend, she didn't want to talk nonsense with him. Miss, are you worried about my identity? Although I'm a black-robed emissary, I'm with His Highness Warlord. If you don't believe me, you can take a look at this. The masked man took out a gray token. On it was the symbol of the Revolutionary Army. It represented his position as the deputy leader of the Revolutionary Army. I don't care who you're with. I just want to see Warlord, Yun Jioga said firmly. The masked man was silent for a moment. He sighed and said, I can tell that Miss Yun isn't an ordinary person. Your insistence on seeing Warlord must have something to do with what happened last night. Last night you mentioned the broken Jade Pavilion's collapse. Yun Jioga played dumb. Oh. The masked man gave Yun Jioga a deep look. He then said, I'm talking about the failed consummation last night. What do you mean? It seemed like this masked man knew a lot of things. Let's not beat around the bush. Since you're standing here in one piece, you should already know that the white-skinned woman was slept with by Warlord in place of His Majesty, the masked man continued. That's right. I know it was Warlord's doing, but I don't know why he did it. He doesn't look like a man blinded by greed. Yun Jioga continued the masked man's topic. I can tell you the reason, but you must help me, the masked man said. Help you with what? Yun Jioga asked. I want you to help me deal with His Majesty's Leng Hui. The masked man stared at Yun Jioga and said, You don't have to refuse. I know you have the ability. From the first time I saw you, I knew you didn't belong to this world. You're from the outside world just like him. Yun Jioga's pupils shrank. The masked man's words contained too much information. Chapter 421. So that gray-faced emperor came from the outside. No wonder he could cultivate to the golden core stage. Zishang had been curious about the lack of spirit qi in this world. Everywhere was filled with killing intent. It was not easy to cultivate to the golden core stage. I was wondering why he was so weird. He didn't look like an emperor at all. Also, the rules in this palace are so messy. Yun Jioga compared the palace in Thunder Country. The palace here was like a knockoff. Everything felt strange. The masked man did not know that Yun Jioga was daydreaming. Seeing her deep gaze, he thought that she did not believe him. He took off the white mask and said, You should believe me now, right? Under the mask was a handsome man's face. He looked exactly like Warlord. The only difference was that his face was very white. It was so white that it was almost transparent. It was very strange. What's your relationship with Warlord? Yun Jioga narrowed her eyes. It was obvious that the masked man and Warlord had a special relationship. My name is Leng Bai. I'm Warlord Leng Mo's twin brother. Leng Hui is our big brother. Leng Bai narrowed his eyes and began to recount his memories. The country they lived in was called Gray Country. When children were born, they were weak white-skinned people. When their bloodline awakened, they would become gray-skinned people. The darker their skin, the stronger they were. They did not need to cultivate to have the power to fight tigers and wolves. At that time, Gray Country was not divided into ranks. Everyone was of the same status. Leng Hui was the eldest son of Gray Country's emperor. When he was born, he was the future heir. He was calm and generous. He had extraordinary talent. He loved his younger brother and cared for his people. He was a very good person. Until one day he was seriously injured while hunting. His life was in danger. The state preceptor summoned his soul to save him. After Leng Hui came back to life, his personality changed. Not only did he become obsessed with cultivation, but he was also crazy about fair-skinned women. He requested the whole country to send fair-skinned women into his harem. Apart from that, he also plundered the wealth of the people to build a strange tower. Because he did not have enough people to build the tower, he divided the people into ranks according to their skin color. Those with dark skin were classified as untouchables. They were dragged to build the tower and did the most tiring and dirty work. At that time, Leng Bai and Leng Emo had realized that Big Brother might have been possessed by the devil. They had wanted to kill the devil, but they had been poisoned and controlled by Leng Gray instead. After Leng Bai and Leng Emo were poisoned, Leng Mo's body became stronger and stronger, but his mind became more and more muddled. and his bestial side often erupted. Lung Bai's skin was getting whiter and whiter, and his cultivation was getting higher and higher, but he had lost the ability to procreate. When Yunjioge heard that Lung Bai had been poisoned, he could not help but interrupt him. "Stretch out your hand, I'll check your pulse." Lung Bai was stunned, but he still extended his hand obediently. A glimmer of hope appeared on his face. Yunjioge placed his hand on Lung Bai's slender and fragile wrist and discovered that there was actually no pulse to speak of. It was a completely dead body. Lung Bai's body is cursed. This is refined by a golden core cultivator's soul energy mixed with poison. Only the person who poisoned him can remove it. You have no way of removing it now. Zhishang had long seen that Lung Bai was poisoned. However, he had no way of curing this poison, so he did not tell Yunjioge. It was actually a curse. Yunjioge had heard of this strange poison before. It was very similar to a curse, but it was even more troublesome. To cure it, one had to be a realm higher than the person who poisoned him. This was impossible for Yunjioge. Zhishang was more likely to do so. However, it was obvious that Zhishang would not waste his demonic power to do such a thing. "I'm sorry, I have no way of curing it either." Yunjioge retracted his hand helplessly. "It's fine. The poison that the devil used is extremely strange. There's no cure at all. I've already resigned myself to my fate." Lung Bai lowered his eyes to hide his disappointment. He retracted his hand and continued to talk about Lung Hui. After that devil-possessed Lung Hui, he had also lost the ability to procreate. That was why he had Ling Mo, who had the same bloodline as Lung Hui, take his place in bed. After those white-skinned women slept with Lung Mo, they were brought to the tower by Lung Hui and disappeared. Lung Bai had once sent assassins to check on the tower, but without exception, none of them walked out alive. I originally wanted to go there personally, but as long as I get close to the tower, Lung Hui will immediately sense it and increase the dosage of the poison. When my skin becomes completely transparent, I will die. It doesn't matter if I die, but I can't watch the devil in Lung Hui's body destroy this country. Since you were able to come to our Grey Nation safely from the outside, you must have a way to deal with that devil. Lung Bai stared at Yunjioge as if he was looking at a savior. It seems that this Lung Hui has been possessed. The power suppressing him should be the sole power that Lung Hui left behind, Zhishang said thoughtfully. Then as long as we help to strengthen Lung Hui's soul power, won't we be able to send the person who has possessed him flying? Yunjioge immediately asked. A soul that had lost its body was very weak. It would be easy to deal with it. We don't have anything that can strengthen Lung Hui's soul power now. Moreover, the possessed cultivator is already in the Golden Core realm. It won't be that easy to get rid of him, Zhishang said calmly. This nameless Golden Core had possessed Lung Hui for so long. It was already deeply rooted in his body. It would be very difficult to get rid of it. Lung Bai might have a way. After all, they are blood brothers. Yunjioge said optimistically. Then you should ask him. Zhishang said without much hope. Then I'll ask. Yunjioge came back to his senses and said to the nervous Lung Bai, I do have a way to deal with that possessed devil. Actually, I've already discovered a mysterious power that can suppress the devil. It should be the sole power that your big brother left behind. That means my big brother is still alive? Lung Bai's eyes widened in disbelief. That's right. If you can awaken your big brother, we have the confidence to deal with that devil. Yunjioge nodded. Then how do we awaken him? Lung Bai asked anxiously. I don't know. This devil was summoned by you guys. Think of a way yourself. Yunjioge threw the question back at him. Lung Bai frowned and said, although the one who summoned him was the Grand Preceptor, the Grand Preceptor doesn't know the inside story. Is the Grand Preceptor still alive? Yunjioge asked. To be able to summon a Golden Core cultivator from the outside world meant that he was quite powerful. Ever since the Grand Preceptor helped Big Brother summon his soul, he suffered a backlash from heaven. He's been in seclusion at home. I haven't seen him for a long time. Lung Bai sighed. Bring me to him. Compared to going head-on with the Golden Core cultivator, Yunjioge was more inclined to take a roundabout way to save the country. Hence she would definitely not let go of any clues. I can bring you to him, but Lung Hui is watching you very closely. It'll be very difficult for you to leave the palace. Lung Bai looked troubled. It had taken him a lot of effort to sneak in tonight. Chapter 422. You don't have to worry about that. Go and make the arrangements now. I'll wait for you at the palace gate. Yun Jioge had Yu Sha as his substitute. Leaving was a simple task. All right, I'll go and make the arrangements now. Leng Bai trusted Yun Jioge and left immediately. After Leng Bai left, Yun Jioge called Yu Sha out. Pretend to be me and stay here. Leng Bai and I will go see the Grand Master. If you and Zishang go on dates every day and leave me here alone, that's too much. Yu Sha was very unhappy. She risked her life to follow Lady Goddess to this secret realm but was used like a tool. She didn't even have a chance to be alone with her. How was she supposed to win back Lady Goddess's heart? Listen to me. This is serious business. Yun Jioge comforted without any sincerity. No, not unless you kiss me. Yu Sha's pretty face was glowing as she looked at Yun Jioge coquettishly. Her cherry lips were very alluring. It was undeniable that Yu Sha was beautiful like this. Even if she was a male demon deep in her soul, it didn't diminish her charm. If Yun Jioge was a man, he would definitely fall for her. Unfortunately, Yun Jioge was a straight woman. No matter how ridiculous she was in her past life and how many lovers she had, she was only interested in Zishang now. Hence, facing Yu Sha's coquettish behavior, Yun Jioge just wanted to run away. Ignore her. Give her a slap and she'll know how to write the word, dutiful. Zishang's voice was gloomy. It looked like he wanted to do it himself. You shall listen to me. I won't mistreat you in the future. Yun Jioge wasn't as cruel as Zishang. He couldn't destroy a flower. After comforting Yu Sha, he turned and ran. Jioge. Yu Sha stared at Yun Jioge's disappearing silhouette with a bewildered look on her pretty face. She then pinched her ample bosom and mumbled to herself, could it be that the saint isn't interested in this body? Speaking of which, the tomboys that the saint has been courting in the past were all flat-chested. Yu Sha thought she had found the reason why Lady Goddess despised her. She was extremely annoyed. If she had known this would happen, she would have attached herself to a man. It was easier for her to be a man. However, Lady Goddess's heart had always been unpredictable. As long as she didn't ask her to leave, she would still have a chance. Let's wait and see. As Yu Sha's imagination ran wild, he did not forget to disguise his face. He had followed the goddess for so many years and understood her temperament very well. Usually she could do whatever she wanted to please her, but as long as she gave him a task, if he couldn't complete it, he could only get lost. The goddess would never keep a useless person. Even if it was a lover, she would choose the strongest one. But then again, if they weren't strong enough, they would have been killed by Zishang a long time ago. At that time, Zishang was the strongest man by the goddess' side. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't make the goddess pregnant and give birth to the child of life, the goddess wouldn't have gone around looking for lovers to give birth to. However, in this life the goddess seemed to be completely bewitched by that fellow Zishang. She didn't know if she still had the chance to rise to the top. It seemed that he still had to seize the opportunity to please the goddess. Otherwise, when those troublesome fellows rushed over, the competition would be even greater. Yu Sha lay on the bed thinking about the goddess. He tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. At this moment, a gust of wind with a faint fishy smell drifted in from outside. Yu Sha's body tensed up, but he soon relaxed and pretended to fall asleep. A moment later, a black silhouette entered the room without a sound. He stood by the bed and stared at Yu Sha. Then he suddenly bent down and moved closer to Yu Sha's neck. His nostrils flared like a wild beast looking for prey. Yu Sha didn't need to open her eyes to know that the person who came was Leng Hui. She tried her best to relax her breathing so that Leng Hui wouldn't notice anything out of the ordinary. Leng Hui sniffed Yu Sha's body and knocked her out with a palm strike. He carried her on his shoulder and took her away. Before Yu Sha fainted, she only had time to send a message to Zishang and Yun Jioge with her thoughts before she fainted. At this moment, Yun Jioge and Leng Bai had just boarded the carriage and were about to head to the Grand Preceptor's residence, which was located 30 miles away from the capital. The Grand Preceptor used to live in the palace's observatory. Ever since he was struck by divine retribution, he returned to his old house and refused to see any guests. Leng Bai introduced the Grand Preceptor's life to Yun Jioge on the carriage. The Grey Kingdom didn't have a Grand Preceptor in the past. That was until a natural disaster struck 100 years ago. A gust of murderous aura descended from the sky and spread like a plague. Those infected by the murderous aura would turn into walking corpses and go around killing people. Back then the people were panicking and the Grey Kingdom was in danger of being destroyed. Later on, the Grand Preceptor saved the people of the world with the murderous pill he invented. The Emperor of the Grey Kingdom at the time was Leng Bai's grandfather. He cultivated the observatory in the palace and invited the Grand Preceptor back. The Grand Preceptor had a profound cultivation base and boundless transcendence energy. He was also very concerned about the people. Every time there was a natural disaster, he would inform the imperial court in advance and help the people avoid many disasters. When my big brother's life was in danger, my father knelt down and begged the Grand Preceptor to save his life. The Grand Preceptor said that my big brother's soul had already left and could only be summoned by someone with the bloodline of a relative. My father volunteered himself, and the Grand Preceptor used another 49 sacrifices to successfully summon my big brother's soul back. I didn't expect a devil to follow my big brother back. Leng Bai's heart ached when he said this. He thought his big brother had passed away. He didn't expect his big brother's soul to still be around. It was just suppressed by the devil. This meant that the Grand Preceptor's soul summoning art was a success. Wasn't the murderous corpse arcane realm opened 100 years ago? Could this Grand Preceptor be an outsider as well? Yun Jioge asked Xianxia secretly. It's very possible, but we'll only know the specifics when we see him in person, Xianxia said cautiously. At that moment Leng Bai spoke. We're here. Yun Jioge followed him down the carriage. In front of them was a gloomy manor. The surroundings were filled with tall locust trees, covering the manor tightly. The morning sun was very bright, but it couldn't penetrate at all. Yun Jioge looked at the locust trees and felt inexplicably uncomfortable. It was as if she was in a graveyard. This is the soul sealing formation. Someone wants to seal the Grand Preceptor's soul here, Xianxia said solemnly. It must be the person who possessed Leng Hui. He's so worried about the Grand Preceptor's soul escaping. This means that the Grand Preceptor must know something. Yun Jioge felt that she had made the right decision to come here. Leng Bai saw Yun Jioge staring at the locust trees and explained, after the Grand Preceptor suffered the backlash, he was afraid of sunlight. He found someone to hasten the growth of these trees. Didn't Leng Hui find someone to hasten the growth? Yun Jioge raised her eyebrows. This answer didn't match what she had imagined. It's not Leng Hui. It's the Grand Preceptor, Leng Bai said with certainty. It's useless to ask him. Let's go in first, Xianxia urged. He had already received news that Wuxia had been taken away by Leng Hui. There was no time to waste here. Chapter 423. Alright, I'll go in now. Yun Jioge could feel Xianxia's anxiety, so he climbed over the wall and entered the manor. Hey, wait. Leng Bai wanted to enter through the main door, but he could only follow. It was even darker inside the manor. He could vaguely see the servants busying about in silence. Their vitality was so weak that they were like the living dead. Where's the Grand Preceptor? Yun Jioge asked Leng Bai in a low voice. In the courtyard on the west side. I'll take you there. Leng Bai walked through the corridor and headed towards the most remote corner on the west side. The further he went, the darker it got. There was no light at all in broad daylight. If the people at the outermost area were the living dead, then the people at the inner area were the walking dead. Leng Bai was shocked when he saw the walking dead. He even wanted to kill them. Don't be meddlesome. Finding the Grand Preceptor is more important. Yun Jioge quickly stopped him. No, if we let these walking dead out, they'll endanger the entire Grey Nation. Ever since the baleful Aura disaster broke out 100 years ago, the Grey Nation's royal family issued an order to kill all the walking dead in the world. We'll talk about it later. These walking dead won't be able to escape. Seeing Leng Bai's insistence, Yun Jioge could only take out several corpse control talismans from his storage bag and toss them over. After the walking dead were hit by the talismans, they obediently stood at the side and did not move. As long as I light the talismans, those walking dead will burn themselves to death. Is that okay? Yun Jioge asked. All right. Although Leng Bai was still unwilling, he did not insist and continued to lead Yun Jioge to the west courtyard. The west courtyard was so dark that one could not even see their fingers in front of them. It was filled with a thick aura of death. A foul smell came from the dark courtyard. It was the smell of rotting corpses. Why is it so smelly? Leng Bai could not help but seal his nose aperture. The last time he visited the Grand Preceptor, the west courtyard was dark but clean. Looks like you're about to die. Yun Jioge's expression was solemn. Impossible. Lung Bai anxiously pushed open the courtyard's old gate and walked into the smelly room. He immediately saw the Grand Preceptor lying on the moldy bed. The Grand Preceptor before him could no longer be called a human. He was a pile of bones and rotting flesh. There were even maggots wriggling in the rotting flesh. Grand Preceptor. Lung Bai's face turned even paler. He used all his strength to cover his mouth to prevent himself from vomiting. Heh. The Imperial Tutor's half-rotten mouth let out a series of gasping sounds. He wanted to say something but he couldn't. How could this be? Lung Bai did not expect the backlash from the State Preceptor's heavenly wrath to be so severe. This is not the wrath of heaven. Someone trapped his soul in his rotten body to torture him, Yunjioge said calmly. Could it be that demon? Why would he do that? Lung Bai's eyes widened. The Grand Preceptor had gone into seclusion after summoning the spirits and had not had any contact with Lung Hui. How could he have offended that devil? You'll have to ask the Imperial Preceptor. Yunjioge was certain that the Imperial Preceptor knew something. The Imperial Preceptor is already in such a state. What else can he ask? Lung Bai looked sorrowfully at the half-dead Grand Tutor. He didn't expect the Grey Kingdom's hero to end up in such a miserable state. It was all his negligence. When he got back he would definitely punish those servants who served him. This is indeed a problem. Yunjioge frowned. The Imperial Preceptor's tongue was already half-rotten and he couldn't speak at all. His hands were only bones left. He probably couldn't write either. How was he supposed to communicate with him? Why go through so much trouble? Just search his soul directly, Xianxia said coldly. Search his soul. Yunjioge was in a difficult position. The Imperial Preceptor was not an enemy. She couldn't do such a cruel thing. He was tortured by that golden core cultivator. As long as we help him take revenge he will definitely be willing to let us search his soul. If you don't believe me you can ask him, Xianxia said confidently. All right. Yunjioge decided to give it a try. He asked the Imperial Preceptor, Imperial Preceptor, I'm here to investigate the demon that possessed Emperor Lung Hui. Are you willing to let us search his soul? No. Before the Imperial Preceptor could reply, Lung Bai had already rejected him. The soul-searching art was so cruel. How could they use it on the Imperial Preceptor? Hehe. The Imperial Preceptor took a deep breath and nodded with all his might. See, I told you he would agree. Xianxia looked as if he had already expected it. Imperial Preceptor. Lung Bai was at a loss. Since the Imperial Preceptor agrees, let's search. Yunjioge saw that Lung Bai was still hesitating. She said unhappily, if you dilly-dally now, not only will you increase the Imperial Preceptor's pain, you will also delay us from saving your big brother. Lung Bai thought of her big brother who was being suppressed by the demon. In the end she still nodded and agreed. All right. Hand the body to me. I will search it. Xianxia was worried about Yunjioge's technique. All right. Yunjioge closed her eyes in trust and handed the body to Xianxia. Lung Bai, who was waiting anxiously at the side, saw that Yunjioge didn't move for a long time. Just as she was about to ask about the situation, Yunjioge suddenly opened her eyes. Her entire aura changed. There was a faint purple glow in the depths of her black eyes. She became cold and arrogant, inviolable. Lung Bai couldn't help but take a step back. She felt respect for the current Yunjioge from the bottom of her heart. Xianxia didn't care about Lung Bai's rich inner thoughts. She walked straight to the Imperial Preceptor. She opened her fair and tender palm and aimed it at the Imperial Preceptor. A purple mist was spat out from her palm and wrapped around the Imperial Preceptor's head. Yunjioge's soul was hiding in his consciousness. He could clearly see the masses of consciousness being transmitted from the Imperial Preceptor. The truth was immediately revealed to the world. It turned out that the Imperial Preceptor was just an ordinary gray-skinned warrior. 100 years ago he accidentally fell into a cliff crack near a volcano and obtained a supreme cultivation technique. The cultivation technique was written by a golden core cultivator called Zhou Xian. It introduced a marrow-cleansing pill. As long as one consumed it, they would achieve great success in the cultivation technique. At that time the Imperial Preceptor was bewitched. He followed the method recorded in the book to collect the ingredients. In the end he really refined a black marrow cleansing pill. After he consumed the marrow cleansing pill, A soul named Zhou Xian suddenly appeared from the supreme cultivation technique and entered his body. It turned out that everything was Zhou Xian's scheme. Zhou Xian was originally a late-stage golden core cultivator from the outside world. When he accidentally fell into this space, his body was destroyed. His life depended on himself. He used a secret technique to hide his soul. Then he released a supreme cultivation technique and waited for the host to appear. After Zhou Xian took over the Imperial Preceptor's body, he killed 99 gray-skinned people. Then he used their souls to set up an evil formation to summon the pestilence baleful qi to lead to the Grey Kingdom. When the Grey Kingdom's emperor was helpless, he appeared with the antidote and successfully became the Grey Kingdom's Imperial Preceptor. In the next 100 years, Zhou Xian began to plan to build a tower that could connect with the baleful qi of heaven and earth. Other than that, he also secretly captured many people for research. There were men, women, young, old, and all kinds of skin color. He even secretly brought back a descendant of the Grey Kingdom's royal family who was not favored. Later, he discovered that the fair-skinned women in this arcane realm had the potential to develop the demonic attraction physique. That was the best vessel to cultivate a baleful demon fetus. Chapter 424. After Zhou Xian discovered the white-skinned woman's secret, he became even crazier. He spent a great deal of effort researching the demonic attraction powder and secretly placed it in the water source to change the physique of the entire Grey Nation. Although this was a huge project, he had finally succeeded after persevering for 100 years. 80% of the white-skinned women had the demon-attracting physique. It was just that this artificially cultivated physique was very fragile, and there was no way to give birth to a demonic embryo in one go. Thus, Zhou Xian began another plan. He plotted to heavily injure Leng Hui, then had the Imperial Preceptor pretend to summon the soul into Leng Hui's body. Then he used the power of the Emperor to build a tall tower, and frantically searched for the white-skinned woman and placed her in the tower to be nurtured. Because the Grand Preceptor's stubborn resistance over the past 100 years had caused Zhou Xian a lot of trouble, after Zhou Xian entered Leng Hui's body, he set up this evil spirit array to trap the Grand Preceptor in the rotting body and torture him. If Zhou Xian knew that his pettiness had caused him to be exposed, would he regret it? I don't know if he will regret it or not. I only know that Zhou Xian must be related to Zhou Senior, Xi Shang said with certainty. It's just that they have the same surname. They might not be related. Yun Jioge felt that there was some involvement. Chosun once said that we can find the treasure map if we get the bloody bead. Later, the bloody bead exploded and we came here to meet Zhou Xian. Do you think it's a coincidence? Anyway, he didn't think so. You mean the last piece of the treasure map is in Zhou Xian? Yun Jioge was excited. That's right. That's the only explanation. If Chosun didn't know Zhou Xian, how could he know the secret of the bloody killing bead and the treasure map? If the treasure map is really with Zhou Xian, then we didn't come here for nothing. Yun Jioge suddenly became excited. Originally, he thought that he was just unlucky to fall into this godforsaken place. He never thought that he would be able to find the last piece of the treasure map. Miss Yun, did you find any news from the soul search? The Grand Preceptor is dying. Leng Bai looked at the Grand Preceptor, who was gradually losing his breath, and immediately became anxious. The Imperial Preceptor has already gone to where he should go. With a flick of Yun Jioge's finger, a wisp of white flame landed on the Imperial Tutor's body, instantly burning him to ashes. This pitiful state preceptor had been dragged by Zhou Xian to live for 100 years. He had long wanted to be free. Did the state preceptor say anything about how to deal with that devil? Leng Bai continued to ask. No, but the Grand Preceptor has already told us the name of the devil. Yun Jioge told Leng Bai about the information regarding Zhou Xian that he had obtained from the Grand Preceptor's soul. Zhou Xian has been hiding for 100 years. Leng Bai felt a chill run down his spine. Could they really defeat that devil after setting up so many traps for 100 years? Don't be discouraged. I already know the method to stimulate your big brother's soul power, Yun Jioge said confidently. The reason why the state preceptor was able to resist Zhou Xian for 100 years as immortal was because of his deep love for the Grey Kingdom. Leng Hui had always been a competent emperor, and his love for the Grey Kingdom was only deeper than the state preceptor's. As long as he set it up properly, he would definitely be able to awaken Leng Hui's soul. Then let's hurry back lest a long night brings trouble. The more Leng Bai understood Zhou Xian's background, the more he feared him. Now he just wanted to get him out of his big brother's body as soon as possible. There's no rush. Destroy this manor first to prevent the deathly aura from escaping, said Yunjioge. I'll get someone to deal with it later. Even if Yunjioge had not mentioned it, Leng Bai would have destroyed all the walking corpses in this manor. Get someone to chop down the surrounding trees first. Wait for sunlight to shine into every corner of the manor before you kill the walking corpses. This step cannot be wrong or else the consequences will be very serious, Yunjioge instructed sternly. Although this soul-trapping formation was not complicated, destroying it recklessly would cause the deathly aura to explode. When that happened, all living things within a 10-mile radius would be killed. I'll keep an eye on it personally, Leng Bai nodded solemnly, then asked, is there anything I need to do in the palace? Compared to this manor, Leng Bai was more concerned about the palace and his big brother. Get War King Leng here. The two of you will be able to deal a heavy blow to Zhou Xian if you work together. These two brothers were definitely the key to defeating Zhou Xian. Alright, I'll go look for Leng now, Leng Bai said impatiently. Since he was about to fall out with Zhou Xian, there was no point in grounding him. I'll wait for you at Chuxiu Palace. Yunjioge boarded the horse carriage after parting ways with Leng Bai. He then said to Zishang, when we get back, let Yusha make the arrangements. She's the best at this sort of thing. Yusha has been captured by Zhou Xian, Zishang said coldly. When did this happen? Yunjioge's face was filled with shock. Yusha had actually been captured. Just now. But don't worry, she'll be fine. With Wan Sha's character, Zishang was not worried that he would be at a disadvantage. Then let's hurry back to the palace and make the arrangements. Yunjioge returned to Chuxiu Palace anxiously. Bao, and the others still did not know that Yusha had been captured. They saw that Yunjioge was still the same as before. Bao, follow me. Yunjioge sent everyone away, leaving Bao, alone. Bao, did not suspect anything and obediently followed Yunjioge into the inner hall. Lie on the bed. Yunjioge pointed at the big bed in the inner hall and then closed the door. I dare not. Bao, knelt down in fear and trepidation. She thought that she had done something wrong to offend Yunjioge. I told you to lie down, so lie down. Yunjioge waved his hand impatiently. Light purple spiritual energy turned into a rope and tied Bao, to the bed. Spare me, miss. Bao panicked and shouted. Then she realized that her throat was tight and she could not speak anymore. Don't worry, I won't hurt you. Close your eyes and everything will be fine when you wake up. Yunjioge reached out his palm and wiped Bao's face. Bao slowly closed her eyes and fell into a deep sleep. Yunjioge's gaze fell on Bao's flat stomach. The devilish chi that Warlord had planted there was sealed by Yusha. What she needed to do was to release the devilish chi and create the illusion of a devil fetus to trick Zhou Xian. Although Bao would suffer a little, she would let Zishang get rid of the devilish chi after the deed was done. She would not let Bao's life be in danger. Let's begin. Zishang revealed himself and stood beside Yunjioge. All right. Yunjioge took out various medicinal ingredients from his storage pouch and prepared to refine the fake devil pill. Zishang set up layers of illusory formations with the big bed as the center. When everything was ready, Leng Bai and Leng finally snuck into Chuxiu Palace. Miss Yun, I'm sorry. What happened that day was not my intention. Leng looked at Yunjioge guiltily. Although he did not really violate Yunjioge, he had taken advantage of her. He was guilty. The person you feel the most sorry for is Bao, not me. Yusha had only taken advantage of her by taking her place, but Bao, had been hurt badly by Leng. Chapter 425. Leng was slightly surprised as he looked at Bao, who was sleeping soundly on the big bed. He vaguely remembered that when the drug took effect, he had casually grabbed a palace maid and taken her to the pear garden. Could it be her? Over the years, Leng had hurt many women under Zhou Xian's control. However, those women were all taken into the high tower, and it was unknown whether they were dead or alive. The only one who escaped was Bao, the palace maid. Because of this, he would treat Bao well. Don't worry, Miss Yun. I will definitely give Bao an explanation, Leng said solemnly. Let's talk about this later. The most important thing right now is to deal with Zhou Xian. This was Leng and Bao's business. They should deal with it themselves, but not now. All right. Leng collected his thoughts and asked Yunjioge, What should we do then? The two of you take these 2 purple lightning exorcism palace cards and stand here. When I make a gesture, use your most shrill voice to shout for help. Yunjioga had made several arrangements. The call of kinship was also a very important part of it. As for the purple thunder exorcism talisman, it was a gift that she had specially prepared for Zhou Xian. She hoped that it would come in handy when the time came. All right. Leng Bai and Leng Yemo stood at the designated position and stared at Yunjioga nervously. Yunjioga walked to the side of the bed and placed the fake demon pill into Bao Er's mouth. Bao Er's throat moved as she swallowed. Then her belly slowly bulged. A ball of black mist rolled around Bao Er's belly, emitting a terrifying aura. From the outside, the entire roof of Chuxiu Palace was filled with gray smoke. That was a symptom that would only appear when a devil fetus was taking shape. Inside the tall tower, Zhou Xian was searching for his escaped prey, the Jade Fiend. When he noticed the commotion, he immediately turned his head to look in the direction of Chuxiu Palace. Last time, Leng Yemo had eaten his devil attraction pill, but failed to consummate the marriage with the white-skinned woman from Chuxiu Palace. Later the drug took effect and she ran away. He didn't care which palace maid was unlucky. Could it be that the palace maid had successfully nurtured the demonic embryo? When Zhou Xian thought of this, he became extremely excited. He had been in this godforsaken place for 100 years and had always wanted to cultivate a demonic fetus so that he could return to the outside world. Unfortunately, he had never succeeded. The Fiend Corp's secret realm was about to close. If they could not leave, they would have to wait another 100 years. He didn't have that kind of patience, which was why he was frantically trying to hasten the birth of the demonic embryo. Who would have thought that there would be a naturally bred devilish fetus? That was the perfect vessel. Zhou Xian couldn't care less about catching the escaping prey. He immediately turned and flew towards Chuxiu Palace. However, he didn't rush in rashly. Instead, he kept pacing around outside, trying to see if there were any traps inside. Yunjioga was using his divine sense to observe the situation outside. He noticed that Zhou Xian was lingering outside Chuxiu Palace. He decisively took out the thunder fire needle and pierced it into Bao Er's belly. The black mist in Bao Er's stomach began to cry like a baby. When Zhou Xian, who was hesitating outside, heard this voice, he no longer cared about anything else and immediately rushed towards Chuxiu Palace. As soon as he pounced into the inner hall, he noticed beams of light lighting up. A gigantic water screen appeared in front of him, displaying the scene of the Grey Nation's citizens being forced to the brink of destruction by the black-robed emissary. The people of the Grey Nation were destitute and homeless, weeping bitterly. 9 out of 10 houses were empty and the land was barren. It was incomparably miserable. Zhou Xian was cold by nature and regarded ordinary people as ants. Such a scene could not move him but only made him feel bored. However, his chest mysteriously throbbed with pain. The cold gray soul force he suppressed began to fluctuate intensely. Damn it! Zhou Xian gritted his teeth and used all his strength to suppress it. If not for the fact that killing Leng Hui would lead to the death of this body, he wouldn't have let Leng Hui live. Yunjioga noticed Zhou Xian's strange behavior, and immediately raised his hand and gestured to Leng Bai and Leng Yemo. The 2 brothers cried out for help at the same time. Big brother, save me! Leng Hui's soul force, which had been suppressed by Zhou Xian, surged again. For the first time he suppressed Zhou Xian and cried out, Little white little Emma, where are you? Big brother! Leng Bai and Leng Yemo cried out in surprise. Just as they were about to run out, Leng Hui was suppressed by Zhou Xian again. Behave yourself. Don't think that I don't dare to kill you. At most I'll just change my body. Zhou Xian threatened Leng Hui fiercely. You two continue shouting. Tell us more about your past, such as how your father and the state preceptor sacrificed themselves for justice. Yunjioga hurriedly urged Leng Bai and Leng Yemo. Leng Bai immediately said, Big brother, father was killed by that demon Zhou Xian in order to save you. The state preceptor was also killed by Zhou Xian. Actually, Zhou Xian was the one who caused the baneful aura disaster 100 years ago. He set up a formation in the state preceptor's manor and wanted to destroy our Grey Nation again. Big brother, our Grey Nation is in danger. Only you can save our people. Leng Bai and Leng Yemo echoed each other. Leng Hui's soul force surged again and he roared angrily, Damn Zhou Xian, get out of my body. No. Zishang, hurry up and attack, Yunjioga said excitedly. Zishang charged forward like a ghost and slammed his palm on Leng Hui's Baihui acupoint. Leng Hui was fighting with Zhou Xian over his body. Just as he was about to be killed by the enraged Zhou Xian, an extremely dense soul force surged into his soul. Leng Hui immediately felt as if he was being helped by God. He kicked Zhou Xian out of his body. Yun Jioge saw a thick black fog erupt from Leng Hui's body. Inside the fog was a hideous man's face. It was Zhou Xian's soul. She raised her evil sword and slashed at Zhou Xian's soul. However, she was repelled by the power of Zhou Xian's soul. However, this was normal. The soul of a golden core cultivator was not something she could deal with right now. Although Zhou Xian hated Yun Jioge to the core, the most important thing now was to find a new body. Hence he turned around and pounced at Leng Yamo. However, he did not expect that when he got close to Leng Yamo, a purple lightning would suddenly appear on Leng Mo's body. Zhou Xian could not dodge in time and was hit. He immediately screamed and rushed out of Chuxiu Palace, flying towards the tall tower. Yun Jioge wanted to chase after him, but Zishang stopped him. Don't chase a desperate enemy. Zishang shook his head. Zhou Xian had been in the palace for so many years, so he must have set up countless traps. If he chased after him rashly, he would only fall into his trap. It was better to remove all the traps first, then go to the tall tower to kill him. All right. Although Yun Jioge was unwilling, he still listened to Zishang and stopped in his tracks. Then he turned to look at Leng Hui, who was standing in the center of the formation. After Leng Hui regained his senses, he hugged his two younger brothers and cried tears of excitement. Big brother is back. You're safe now. Big brother, big brother. Leng Bai and Leng Yamo cried tears of joy. They cried like two children. Don't celebrate too early. We still have a lot of things to do. Although Yun Jioge did not want to dampen their spirits, the situation was dire. They had to rush into the tall tower before Zhou Xian recovered. Chapter 426. Miss Yun is right. The most important thing now is to get rid of Zhou Xian. He set up many traps in the tower. If we want to break in, we have to make the most thorough preparations. Although Leng Hui's soul power had been suppressed by Zhou Xian all these years, he still knew a lot about what Zhou Xian was doing. All right, I'll go gather people to destroy the tower now, Leng Yamo said with high morale. Tell that idiot not to be impulsive. To destroy the tower, we have to destroy the fiend gathering formation in the palace first, Zishang said in Yun Jioge's mind. How do we destroy it? Yun Jioge asked. I've already calculated where the eye of the formation is. We just have to destroy it. Zishang sent the method of destroying the formation into Yun Jioge's mind. After receiving it, Yun Jioge realized that the method was very complicated. She couldn't do it alone. She needed the help of the three Leng brothers. At that moment, Leng Yamo was still excitedly introducing his revolutionary army to his big brother Leng Hui. 1,000 of the elite soldiers were personally trained by him. Not only did they have cultivation, but they also learned battle formations. They could definitely destroy the tower and kill Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian's tower isn't as simple as you think. Your soldiers will only die if they attack the tower. Leng Hui shook his head. No one knew better than him how terrifying the tower was. It wasn't something ordinary people could destroy. Big brother is right. You forgot how Elder Song died, Leng Bai said in pain. Elder Song was their common master. He was the oldest and had the highest cultivation in the Grey Kingdom. When his lifespan was about to end, he volunteered to investigate the situation in the tower. However, even though he was already in the late stage of foundation establishment, he still died without a sound after entering the tower. Not even a message was sent out. Then what should we do? Leng Mo's heart turned cold when he thought of his master. Was there really no way to deal with that demon? Miss Yun, since you can save my big brother, you should have a way to destroy the tower. Leng Bai looked at Yun Jioge with anticipation. This magical white-skinned lady always brought about miracles. If you want to destroy the tower, you have to listen to me. Otherwise, forget about destroying the tower, even your Grey Kingdom might perish. Yun Jioge narrowed her eyes and started to threaten them. If they wanted to destroy the formation, they had to listen. Otherwise, if the three brothers didn't cooperate, things would be difficult. Don't worry, Miss Yun. We'll definitely listen to you. Leng Yamo and Leng Bai nodded at the same time. Miss Yun, as long as you can destroy the tower and kill Zhou Xian, it won't be a problem for you to take my life, let alone make us obey you, Leng Hui said seriously. Big brother. Leng Bai and Leng Yamo cried out at the same time. If I die, the next emperor of the Grey Kingdom will be by you will assist him, Ling Hui said solemnly. He had already written the edict. Big brother, please don't say that. Leng Yemo panicked and hurriedly said to Yun Jioge, Miss Yun, if someone needs to be sacrificed to break the array, then look for me. I've done all sorts of bad things over the years and deserve to die. Oh, look for me. Leng Bai pushed Leng Yemo away and said to Yun Jioge anxiously, I won't be able to live for long anyway, and I can't leave behind any descendants. I'm useless. I should be the one sacrificing the most. Yun Jioge was rendered speechless by their dedication. Who said that breaking the array would take lives? You're thinking too much. I just need you to be obedient and help me tear down this palace. Leng Bai and Leng Yemo were stunned and immediately felt a little embarrassed. Big brother, you're really too much. Aren't you misleading us? Leng Yemo laughed foolishly as he scratched his head. That's right. Leng Bai also revealed a slightly childish smile. In front of their big brother they would always be children. It's big brother's fault. Leng Hui also smiled, but there was endless bitterness behind his smile. Although he had already regained control of his body was already on the verge of collapse after being tormented by Zhou Xian all these years. He could die at any time. However, there was no need to tell his two younger brothers about this. They would be happy for as long as they could. They had suffered all these years. Yun Jioge had the same thought, so he did not mention the fact that Leng Hui did not have long to live. Instead, he ordered Leng Bai and Leng Yemo to send all the living people out of the palace. Get them as far away from the palace as possible, especially Bao. Her yang qi is weak now, so we have to protect her carefully. Although Yun Jioge had already gotten Zishang to remove the demonic qi from Bao Er's body, this method was too harmful to her body. Now Bao Er seemed to have just recovered from a serious illness. Her body was very weak, so they had to protect her carefully. I understand. Leng Yemo nodded. He decided to arrange for Bao Er to stay in the warlord's mansion. As for the other palace maids and eunuchs, they would find 2 large warehouses and lock them up. Then they would send people to guard them. Zhou Xian had been operating in the palace for so many years. Who knew if there were spies left behind by him? It was better to be cautious. Yun Jioge did not care how Leng Bai and Leng Yemo arranged those people. She only needed to achieve the effect she wanted. Leng Hui gave an imperial edict, and the people in the palace were all sent away within 2 hours. The empty palace that had lost its human presence felt extremely cold and gloomy even in broad daylight. The green brick floor kept emitting cold air. Miss Yun, can the 4 of us destroy the formation? It was not that Leng Yemo did not believe Yun Jioge, but the 4 of them were too few. Of course it's not the 4 of us. It's the 3 of you, Yun Jioge said seriously. Aren't you going to help us? Leng Mo's dark face instantly turned pale. Look at your cowardly face. I'm joking with you. Yun Jioge could not help but laugh out loud. Miss Yun really likes to joke. Leng Yemo secretly sighed. So be it. His life was more important. I saw that you were nervous, so I was joking with you. Do you feel much better now? Yun Jioge said with a smile. She felt that she was really talented. 3 words were clearly written on Leng Mo's dark face. No. Right, stop fooling around. Let's get down to business. Zishang, who was hiding in the mark, could not stand it anymore. He really had no sense of humor. Yun Jioge scratched her face and straightened her expression. She said seriously, let's get down to business. Later, the 3 of you will each lead 300 elite soldiers and listen to my orders. Yes, Leng Yemo immediately replied. The 900 elite soldiers were quickly gathered. They were all good seedlings that Leng Yemo had carefully selected from the revolutionary army over the years. They were absolutely loyal. The formation has a total of 9 formation cores, but the most important ones are the 2 large ones at the east and west. Leng Bai and Leng Yemo will each lead 300 elite soldiers to stand guard there, while Leng Hui will lead some people and destroy the formation cores from the south. Yun Jioge's fingers moved slightly and purple spirit energy sketched out a formation on the blue stone slab. There were 9 purple light spots clearly marked on it. Chapter 427. Miss Yun, how are we going to suppress these formation eyes later? Yunamo did not know much about formations and was confused. I'll bring you there first and tell you what to do later. Let's go to the east first. Yun Jioge led the way while Leng Yamo, Leng Bai, and Leng Hui followed behind her with the soldiers. They arrived at the Palace of Heavenly Purity first. The Palace of Heavenly Purity is the first formation eye. Later Leng Yamo brings some men and guard this circle. Under Zishang's control, Yun Jioge's palm shot out a purple mist into the floor and formed purple runes on the tiles. The circle was big enough for Leng Yamo and the 300 elite soldiers to stand. We just have to stand in the circle? Leng Yamo looked at the runes in confusion. He felt that they could be wiped off with his hand and were not reliable at all. Of course not. When we destroy the formation eyes, many walking corpses will appear in the 2 formation eyes that you're guarding. Your mission is to kill them as much as you can. This circle is to protect you and prevent you from being drowned by the walking corpses. Zishang did not intend to care about their life and death. This defensive circle was requested by Yun Jioge. Drowned. Leng felt his scalp go numb when he heard the word. Where do so many walking corpses come from? Leng Bai did not believe Yun Jioge. Zhou Xian has buried a lot of corpses underground. If you don't destroy the formation and attack the tower directly, the undead army and the tower will surround you. Yun Jioge didn't dare to keep them guessing about such an important matter, so he told them everything in detail. Underground. Leng Yamo and Leng Bai looked at the floor at the same time. The ordinary bluestone tiles looked disgusting. Stop looking and quickly enter the circle to fight. We have to start breaking the formation at noon. After Yun Jioge made arrangements for Leng Yamo, she brought Leng Bai to the broken jade pavilion in the west and asked Zishang to help Leng Bai set up the defensive circle. After the 2 formation eyes were set up, Yun Jioge brought Leng Hui and started breaking the formation from the south. The first formation eye, Pear Garden, dig. Yun Jioge ordered and the 300 elite soldiers started digging with shovels. The beautiful pear garden was destroyed in an instant. The pear trees were chopped down and stacked on top of each other. The outermost layer of brown soil had been dug up, and what followed was a dark red area. Further down were densely packed white skeletons, emitting a bone-chilling aura. These skeletons were stacked on top of each other. There were a total of 9 layers which clearly looked like a tall tower. Leng Hui's expression was pained. Although these were all Zhou Xian's evil deeds as the emperor, he could not protect his people. He was useless. Don't think about these useless things. Right now the most important thing is to break the formation. Hurry up and bring some people to burn this bone tower with spiritual fire. Yun Jioge ordered Leng Hui without holding back. Leng Hui had probably been repressed for too long. He was very pessimistic and depressed. This would only hasten his death. Yes. Leng Hui pulled himself together and mobilized the spiritual power in his body. He pinched his fingers and shot out a small gray spiritual fire. The gray spiritual fire was pitifully small when it landed on the white bone tower. Fortunately, there were 300 elite soldiers assisting it. Although the highest cultivation level of these elite soldiers was only at the 8th level of Qi refinement, Leng Yamo had always trained them as imperial guards. He had also taught them the secret formations of the palace. At Leng Hui's order, the 300 elite soldiers immediately formed a triangular formation and placed their palms on the backs of their comrades in front of them. Their spiritual power accumulated layer by layer, and finally landed accurately on the white bone tower's spiritual fire. The gray spiritual fire exploded as if red oil had been poured on it. The raging flames instantly burned the white bone tower down. Ghostly wails and wolf howls sounded from the east and west of the formation at the same time. Black Qi emerged from the limestone bricks of the Palace of Heavenly Purity and the broken jade pavilion. They turned into walking corpses with missing arms and legs. They instantly broke through the 2 palaces. Leng Mo's eyes widened as he looked at the walking corpses in front of him. At first he thought that Yun Jioge was bragging. After seeing the terrifying scene in front of him with his own eyes, he knew that she was not exaggerating at all. "Your Highness, what should we do now?" The soldiers braced themselves and asked as they looked at the endless walking corpses in front of them. "Form the formation and fight back." Leng Yamo did not let any of his panic show on his face. His steady attitude allowed the soldiers to quickly calm down. Then they formed an attack formation behind him. At the same time, the defensive formation left behind by Zishang suddenly lit up. The purple runes all rose into the air and turned into a purple haze that blocked the walking corpses outside. "Kill!" Leng Yamo shouted. He raised his sword and chopped off the head of the walking corpses in the front row. The other soldiers were also encouraged by him. Relying on the protection of the defensive formation, they began to kill in all directions. After the initial panic, the broken jade pavilion on Leng Bai's side also began to prepare for battle. They'll be fine, right? Leng Hui could not help but worry when he saw the black qi surrounding the Palace of Heavenly Purity and the broken jade pavilion. You should believe in their abilities. The only way to help them is to break the formation as soon as possible. Yun Jioge understood Leng Hui's worries, but she did not think that Leng Bai and Leng Mo were that weak. I know. Where's the next formation? Leng Hui retracted his gaze and forced himself to focus on the current mission. The Lotus Pond. Let's go. Yun Jioge led Leng Hui and the 300 elites forward quickly. Soon they arrived at the side of the Lotus Pond. The originally clear river water had become eerily pitch black. The dark green lotus leaves had all withered. Only a fist-sized pink lotus flower bloomed in the middle of the pond. The bright red stamen of the flower was like a woman's lips. As it opened and closed, the indistinct cries of a woman could be heard. There's someone underwater, a soldier shouted in panic. Yun Jioge looked over and saw a pale-skinned little girl hiding in the pitch-black water. She was looking at them in fear. Her long black hair was tied to the lotus flower like water plants. The little girl was about 8 years old. She had big black eyes and a small nose. However, her mouth was sewn up with strange black stitches. This little girl reminded Yun Jioge of Zhu Xian, whom he had met when he first fell into the mystic realm. She was also 8 years old, but she had already become the target of the black-robed messenger. Should we fish her up first? Leng Hui could not bear to do so. Although he knew that this little girl was no longer human, he still wanted to help her. She's so young. How pitiful. Many of the soldiers had lost their families because of the black-robed messenger. When they saw the white-skinned little girl in the water, they felt like they were looking at their own pitiful little sister. They all wanted to save her. Some of the soldiers could not help but roll up their pants and get ready to go into the water to save the little girl. Yun Jioge frowned as he looked at the little girl's panicked little face. He could not bear to see her like this, so he did not stop the kind soldiers. At that moment, Zishang, who had been quiet all this time, suddenly stopped them with a stern voice. Tell those stupid soldiers not to move. Chapter 428. Yun Jioge immediately shot out a beam of spiritual light to stop the soldiers who tried to enter the water. Then she whipped each of them. Miss Yun, what are you doing? Leng Hui's heart ached for his soldiers being whipped. Did I say you could enter the water? Yun Jioge's expression was as dark as still water. His sharp gaze swept across the soldiers and finally landed on Leng Hui. Previously you promised me that you would listen to everything I say. Now you're acting on your own without my orders. Is this how you lead troops? I was wrong. Please punish me, Miss Yun. Leng Hui immediately apologized. There were still 7 formation eyes waiting for Yun Jioge to remove. He couldn't afford to anger her now. Yun Jioge knew that Leng Hui was affected by the ghost whales, but she still whipped him without hesitation. If he didn't remember this lesson, he'd only make bigger mistakes in the future. By then it would be too late to make up for it. The 300 elite soldiers realized that even the emperor was willing to be punished. They respected Yun Jioge even more. Yun Jioge saw that these people were obedient and asked Zishang, "What's so strange about this lotus pond? How can we remove it?" Ask them to dig up the lotus pond and drain the water inside first. Zishang used Yun Jioge's hand to draw 2 purple lines on the edge of the pond. Dig according to the lines. Yun Jioge looked at the narrow purple tunnel. Finally, he divided the 300 soldiers into 3 groups and had them take turns digging. Digging soil was nothing to these elite soldiers with cultivation. Even if they dug with their bare hands, it would not be a problem. Immediately, some brave and skillful soldiers started to dig, but they didn't expect the brown soil to be as hard as a metal plate. Use your spiritual power to dig, Yun Jioge reminded. If it was that easy, it wouldn't be called a formation eye. The first group of elite soldiers dug for less than the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, and they were so tired that they were panting and sweating. Let's change to the second group. Yun Jioge looked at the shallow tunnel and felt anxious. Breaking the formation was a race against time. If they wasted too much time here, it would be difficult later on. I'll do it. Leng Hui took a steel shovel and went personally. He was a Foundation establishment cultivator and dug much faster than the Qi refinement soldiers. Seeing that the emperor was personally going into battle, the other elite soldiers used all their strength to take turns digging. Finally, they dug a deep channel within an hour. "All right, come out." Yun Jioge ordered all the elite soldiers to retreat to a distance of 100 meters from the lotus pond. Only then did he use the evil blade to destroy the mud wall that was blocking the lotus pond. There was a big hole in the mud wall, but the pitch-black pool water did not move at all. It was like frozen ice and not a single drop flowed out. "Zishang, what should we do?" The water in the pool was too strange. "Take a drop of your blood essence and draw the water out. Be careful, don't get swallowed by the water," Zishang instructed. "All right." Yun Jioge pricked his finger and squeezed out a drop of blood. The pitch-black water began to churn when it smelled the blood. It was like a hungry shark that couldn't wait to rush out. Yun Jioge wrapped the drop of blood with his spirit energy and circled around the lotus pond. Wave after wave of the pond water wildly chased after the drop of blood. Yun Jioge directed the blood towards the wound. The black sticky water surged out and chased after Yun Jioge. The water in the lotus pond slowly receded, and the white-skinned girl's expression turned even more horrified. Soon she was exposed in front of everyone. A rancid smell inundated them. Many soldiers could not help but vomit when they saw the scene in the lotus pond. Beneath the white-skinned little girl were countless terrifying white skulls. Their teeth were as sharp as blades, and they were densely packed and layered, covering the bottom of the lotus pond. If those soldiers had walked directly into the water, they would definitely have been devoured by these skulls until not even their bones were left. The pink lotus was stuck in the bones. Without the protection of the pond water, it was extremely horrified. Its stamen opened its mouth and let out a shrill scream, wanting to summon the pond water back. When the black pond water heard the scream, it immediately stopped chasing and wanted to return to the lotus pond. When Yun Jioge saw this, he could only lower the drop of blood that had flown high up to lure the pond water. The pond water hesitated slightly before suddenly expanding several feet. It transformed into a huge black mouth that swallowed the drop of blood. Yun Jioge's heart trembled. He wanted to retrieve the drop of blood, but it was too late. At the critical moment, Zishang decisively appeared. He shattered the pond water with a palm and retrieved Yun Jioge's blood. The pond water crashed to the ground. It seemed to have realized that Zishang was not to be trifled with. Without hesitation, it turned and charged towards the lotus pond. "Trying to leave?" A look of disdain flashed across Zishang's handsome face. He flipped his palm and blocked the mouth with a purple mist. The black pond water crashed into the mouth and bounced off before crashing back again. It looked like it would not turn back until it hit a wall. "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and get rid of those bones." While Zishang was fighting with the black pond water, he did not forget to stuff Yun Jioge's drop of blood into his mouth. "Oh." Yun Jioge returned to his senses and hurriedly called out to Leng Hui. "Hurry up and destroy this lotus pond. The sooner we can help Leng Leng and Leng Bai, the sooner we can." Leng Hui was still trying to guess who this handsome man who had suddenly appeared was. When he heard Yun Jioge's words, he could not care less about guessing. He hurriedly ordered the 300 elite soldiers to start burning the bones in the lotus pond. The gray spiritual fire floated towards the lotus. The lotus let out a piercing scream. White bones frantically suppressed the spiritual fire. Sweat began to appear on Leng Hui's forehead. The 300 elite soldiers also increased the input of spiritual power. Finally, they managed to light the spiritual fire again before it was extinguished. When the lotus realized that it could not extinguish the spiritual fire, its scream changed again. The white-skinned little girl quickly moved her body. She brought the pond of bones with her, wanting to fly back to the black pond water in the passageway. Zishang raised his hand and shot out a purple mist, sending the white-skinned little girl flying back. The bones fell into the spiritual fire with a bang. "Leng Hui, eat your medicine." Yun Jioge had once given Leng Hui a bottle of spirit recovery pills. He had wanted to wait until they entered the tall tower to eat them. Seemed like he could not wait until then. Leng Hui's heart ached as he ate a spirit recovery pill. Then he once again injected spiritual power into the gray spiritual fire. The exploding spiritual fire quickly occupied the entire lotus pond. The lotus kept screaming in pain. It summoned the bones to help it block the fire. The black pond water also sensed danger. The force of the collision became stronger and stronger. However, it was mercilessly suppressed by Xianxia. The white bones were gradually burned. Only the white-skinned little girl was left guarding the lotus. When the lotus realized that it had lost, it instantly withered. Its red lips and stamen flew to the white-skinned little girl. "I'm begging you. Let me go. Let me go." The white-skinned little girl's sewn mouth instantly recovered. She knelt on the ground and begged Yunjioga. In Yunjioga's ears, that young voice sounded very similar to Zuezue's. In the ears of the 300 elite soldiers, it overlapped with their little sister, family and friends. The 300 elite soldiers, including Leng Hui, all revealed expressions of pity. However, the memory of Yunjioga's whip was still fresh in their minds. Therefore no one dared to beg for mercy. "Good child. Go in peace." Yunjioga sighed. With a flick of his finger, the white bone fire landed on the white-skinned little girl. Chapter 429. The white-skinned girl screamed. Her body quickly melted, revealing a skull with a bright red mouth. The skull screamed and pounced at Yunjioga, looking like it was going to fight to the death. Yunjioga's evil saber rose automatically and formed a long red saber that slashed down. The skull turned into countless pieces that fell into the spiritual fire pool and were burned to ashes. The black water beside the pool evaporated instantly, turning into black gas that shot into the sky and flew toward the palace of heavenly purity and broken jade pavilion. Leng Hui was anxious when he saw this. He wanted to help his two younger brothers immediately. "Let's go to the next formation Xianxia said as he pulled Yunjioga's hand. "You want to go with us?" Yunjioga was surprised. Xianxia had always liked to hide and rarely moved with her in front of others. "Too slow." Xianxia glanced at Yunjioga. "The next formation would be even more difficult. It would take them a long time to finish." "Then let's go." Yunjioga didn't feel guilty at all. She was only in the chi refinement realm. It was already difficult for her to break a golden core cultivator's malevolence formation. Next, Xianxia led Yunjioga to dig out 100 dead infant corpses, 100 eunuchs' heads, and 100 palace maids' bodies from the Dragon Prince Palace, the guardhouse and the palace maids' court. These corpses that had been nourished by malevolence were very fierce. However, they couldn't withstand a single blow from Xianxia. The group moved forward with great momentum. Leng Hui followed behind them. The more he watched, the more shocked he became. If he hadn't experienced the difficulty of the first two formation eyes, he would have thought that this malevolence formation would be easy to break. This mysterious and handsome man was too powerful. He must have played a part in Miss Yun's previous actions. If he could rope him in, not only could he kill Zhou Xian, but the Grey Kingdom would also become more prosperous. The lives of the people would be much better. Unfortunately, he was an outsider. It was too difficult to make him stay unless... Leng Hui's heart raced at this thought. His pale gray face flushed with excitement. "All right, burn these palace maids' corpses and we can go help Leng Bai and Leng Yemo. I suggest we go to Leng Bai first. What do you think?" Yunjioga saw Leng Hui's strange expression and thought that he was worried about his two younger brothers, so she didn't think too much about it. "All right." Leng Hui snapped out of his daze and hurriedly nodded. Leng Bai's body had always been weaker than Leng Mo's since they were young, so it was only right for them to save him first. "Let's go. Next is the Broken Jade Pavilion. Once we get rid of the Palace of Heavenly Purity, our mission will be complete." Yunjioga encouraged the soldiers. Along the way, the ones who had the hardest time were these 300 elite soldiers. Yes. The morale of the 300 elite soldiers was greatly boosted. They responded in unison and followed Yunjioga and Xianxia towards the shattered Jade Pavilion. Within the Broken Jade Pavilion, Leng Bai was already an arrow at the end of its flight. More and more walking corpses appeared and they became more and more ferocious. The defensive circle left by Xianxia could no longer withstand their crazy attacks. Many soldiers had already been dragged outside and devoured. Leng Bai numbly brandished the long sword in his hand. Every time he swung it, he would cut down a group of zombies, but they would immediately double in number. The color of the purple defensive circle became fainter, and the runes on the ground became blurry, as if they were in danger of disappearing at any moment. "Third Highness, the defensive circle can't hold on any longer. Staying here will only lead to death. We'll help you fight your way out." Please go and meet up with Her Majesty. A loyal soldier begged. Lung Bai was a little tempted. Nobody wanted to die if they could live. However, he quickly remembered what Yunjioge had said. If you want to destroy the tower, you must listen to her. Otherwise, forget about destroying the tower, even the Grey Kingdom might be destroyed. Yunjioge's order was to guard this formation point. He must not leave until the last moment. Lung Bai pulled himself together and said sternly to the soldiers, "This is our battlefield. Even if I die here, I must persevere until the last moment. Your Highness, our deaths are not to be regretted, but you are precious. How can you be sacrificed in this filthy place?" The soldiers were still begging bitterly. "Shut up. If I say defend, then defend. If you dare to shake the morale of the army again, kill without mercy." Lung Bai slashed his sword at the walking corpses outside. His mind was unprecedentedly clear. The remaining soldiers did not dare to persuade him anymore. They could only continue to fight with him. After an unknown period of time, the defensive circle had thinned to the last layer of light. Another 10 soldiers were dragged away by the walking corpses. The remaining 200 soldiers had already compressed to the center and surrounded Lung Bai. Lung Bai looked at the endless walking corpses, and a sense of despair rose in his heart. Was he really going to die here? He had not seen the tower destroyed and Zhou Xian killed. He really could not accept this. At this moment, a purple dot of light rose in the distance. It emitted a scorching light like the sun. The walking corpses were like evil spirits that had seen the sun. They let out a series of screams and desperately tried to tie down everything. The next moment, Yunjioge charged in with his men. "Miss Yun, big brother." Lung Bai was about to cry tears of joy. You've suffered." Lung Hui saw his third brother's body so weak that he could not even stand straight. His heart ached and he quickly went up to comfort him. Lung Bai was also extremely excited. He was about to tell his big brother about the predicament he had just been in when he heard a cold but pleasant voice. "Next, Palace of Heavenly Purity." Lung Bai turned his head and saw an extremely handsome man in purple standing beside Yunjioge. He exuded a cold but noble aura. It was the unique aura of a person in a high position. It made people respect him and could not help but submit to him. "Miss Yun, this is..." Lung Bai's consciousness told him clearly that this man was not an ordinary person. He was worth roping in. "This is my guard Yizi. Lung Yamo is still waiting for us to save him. Let's hurry up." Yunjioge introduced Zishang in a simple manner. "Yes, hurry up and save Lung Yamo. His condition is even worse than mine. I'm afraid we can't hold on much longer." Lung Bai immediately threw Zishang to the back of his mind. He was afraid that he would only be able to collect Lung Mo's corpse if he was too late. Reality proved that Lung Yamo was indeed the leader of the revolutionary army. His combat ability was much stronger than Lung Bai's. Although there were more walking corpses at his place, none of the 300 elite soldiers had been sacrificed. All of them were in a killing frenzy. This was especially so for Lung Yamo. He was like a mad tiger. He could not even come back to his senses when he saw Lung Bai. He roared and slashed at Lung Bai. Lung Yamo looked carefully. "I'm Li Bai. This is big brother Lung Hui." Lung Bai dodged the slash and held Lung Yamo down while shouting. Lung Mo's bloodshot eyes could not see anything. He shook Lung Bai off and continued to kill. Yunjioge saw this and channeled his spiritual energy into the Thunderfire Needle. He then pierced the Dazui acupoint on the back of Lung Mo's neck. The spiritual energy in Lung Mo's body stopped. His eyes rolled back and he fell to the ground. Lung Hui and Lung Bai quickly went forward to check on him. "He's too excited. It's good to let him calm down. The killing formation has been broken. You guys better go and rest quickly because we're going to break the tower soon." As soon as Yunjioge finished speaking, a rumbling sound came from the east. In the glow of dusk, a tall tower suddenly appeared in front of everyone. The dull gray tower looked like a pile of bones. Black and gray human heads hung from the eaves of the tower. They stared at Yunjioge and the others with bloodshot eyes. Chapter 430. They won't even let us take a breather. Yunjioge gloomily looked at the white bone tower. If they couldn't enter the wizard tower before sunset, the wizard tower's baleful aura would engulf the entire Grey Kingdom tomorrow, turning it into a living hell. What's there to pant for? Zishang's handsome face was calm and composed. "What do you think happened to you, Sha, in there? Could he have been killed by Zhou Xian?" To be honest, Yun Jioge was quite worried about Wuxia. Wuxia is merely Wan Sha's vessel. Even if something were to happen to him, it wouldn't affect him at all. Zishang truly didn't want to see Yun Jioge worry for his love rival. He said a few good words for Wan Sha. If it wasn't for the fact that Azure Wave's continent is too low and Wan Sha's physical body and soul couldn't come here, this tower wouldn't even be enough for him to crush it with one hand. If Wan Sha can't come, then how did you come here? Yun Jioge was puzzled. Little Menghua had said that Zishang was the strongest of all her lovers. Of course I have my ways. Zishang said nonchalantly, as if he was not worth mentioning. He wouldn't tell Yun Jioge that in order to follow her reincarnation he destroyed his own cultivation, sealed his physical body, abandoned his clansmen, endured the pain of thousands of blades to come to Azure Wave's continent, and finally possessed the body of a purple horn ink python. In order to find traces of her, he united the demon race, but after searching for 1,000 years he still couldn't find any clues. It wasn't until the demon clan's prophet used his 500 years of cultivation to perform a divination for him that the fated chance was in the Thunder Nation that he came to the Thunder Nation's 10,000 feet abyss and waited for another 100 years. Because the ink python had fused with his soul, he could not recall the memories of his previous life when he first met Yun Jioge. He could only rely on his instinct to sign a contract with Yun Jioge and then use all methods to get close to her. This was a dark history, and it was better to bury it in his heart and let it rot. Yes. You're the best. Yun Jioge thought Zishang was keeping him in suspense again, so he stopped asking. She turned around and glanced at the crowd. Seeing that Ling Mo was gathering the soldiers to enter the tower, she said, "The 5 of us can enter the tower. Let the soldiers stay behind to clean up the palace. We must dig 3 feet into the ground and dig out all the things that Zhou Xian buried." The inside of the tower was extremely dangerous. These elite soldiers would only be sending themselves to their deaths if they went in. Instead, they would be a burden. Actually, according to Yun Jioge's thoughts, it would be best if even Leng Hui and his brothers did not enter. Although they were at the Foundation establishment realm, they were still trash to Zhou Xian. In other words, other than Zishang, anyone who entered the tower would be in danger. However, Zishang insisted on letting the 3 brothers in, saying that they had other uses. As for what it was used for, he refused to say. He only said that Yun Jioge would know when the time came. "We'll do as Miss Yun says." Leng Hui was now very trusting of Yun Jioge. He felt that all of her orders came from the mouth of the mysterious expert Yizi. Leng Mo had no objection to this. Destroying the tower was important, but cleaning up the palace was equally important. "Do you still have the lightning snake illusionary whip?" Zishang asked Yun Jioge. "Yeah, do you want to use it?" After Yun Jioge went to the Een Corp sect, he sealed the Thunder Snake illusionary whip and put it in his storage bag. "Yes, we might need to use it later." Entering the tower was not as simple as just walking. When the time came, they would have to demolish it with brute force. Zishang did not want to waste her demon power, so she turned her attention to Yun Jioge's lightning snake illusionary whip. He had no use for it anyway. "Here you go." Yun Jioge did not know what Zishang was planning, so he handed it over without hesitation. Zishang took it and wrapped it around his hand. Then he led Yun Jioge towards the tower. The tower looked very terrifying from afar. Up close, the murderous aura condensed into a fog that roared like a devil's roar. The entire tower was tightly shut. There was not a single gap, let alone a door. I saw a door the last time I was here. Where did it go?" Ling Bai was surprised. He had sent people to monitor the area, and he would often come over to observe. He was very sure that there was a door at the bottom of the tower. It must have been sealed by Zhou Xian. Leng Hui looked at Zishang, but he asked Yun Jioge, "Miss Yun, how do we get in?" "Just open it." Yun Jioge had complete faith in Zishang's strength. Zishang let Yun Jioge stand on him, then took out the lightning snake illusionary whip. The thin and soft whip turned into a terrifying beast in his hand. It charged towards the bottom of the tower. With a boom, the tower shook slightly. The human heads hanging under the eaves let out sharp screams. Black gas sprayed towards Zishang. Guard. Zishang had no intention of letting Leng Hui and the other 2 laze around. Yes. Leng Hui, Leng Bai, and Leng Mo took out their Dharma artifacts at the same time. 3 gray longswords made of the same material formed a triangle in the air, casting a powerful defensive light. Yun Jioge stayed close to Zishang. This guy was naturally suspicious. He trusted no one but himself. The lightning snake illusionary whip expanded again, turning into a black and white python. Purple lightning coiled around its body. It was comparable to a divine beast. Yunjioge was dumbfounded. The long whip had never been so powerful in her hands. Zhishang was indeed powerful. However, looking at the lightning snake illusionary whip's formation, it seemed like it was going to perish together with the tower. Yunjioge's guess was right. The black and white pythons shook their heads and wagged their tails. They coiled tightly around the white bones on the first floor of the tower. Then with a boom they exploded. The tower shook violently. The human heads on the third floor were all blasted into pieces. Yunjioge reached out with a trembling hand. He only managed to catch a few pieces of the lightning snake illusionary whip. Look, it's open. Zhishang pointed at the huge hole at the bottom of the tower. That's my spirit artifact. If you want to sacrifice it, you should at least discuss it with me. I'll give you a better one when we get back. It was just an Dharma artifact made from the bones of a demon snake. He could easily find a bunch of them. That's my first spirit artifact. This was different. Yunjioge was about to die from anger. You'll have your first precious artifact, immortal artifact, divine artifact. Zhishang consoled without any sincerity. Of course, he knew that the lightning snake illusionary whip was Yunjioge's first spirit artifact. He also knew that it was a gift from Dongfang, Quebec. In the past he did not care about his memory loss. Now he would not allow Yunjioge to treat a spirit artifact given by another man as a treasure. If you don't, I'll teach you a lesson. Other than verbal threats, Yunjioge did not have any other practical methods. But the most important thing now is to hurry into the tower. It's getting dark. If they did not enter the tower now, it would be too late. Then hurry. Yunjioge did not want to bicker with Zhishang anymore. At that moment, the smoke and dust at the bottom of the tower had already settled, revealing a huge black hole. It looked like the mouth of a monster waiting for its sacrifice. Leng Hui felt his scalp go numb. When he was possessed by Zhou Xian, he had entered this tower countless times. Although he could not remember what he saw inside, he could sense that it was extremely terrifying. Chapter 431. Let's go. Zhishang pulled Yunjioge's hand and led Leng Hui, Leng Yamo, and Leng Bai into the tall tower. The first to third floors had already been blown to pieces by the thunder snake illusionary whip. Zhishang led Yunjioge and the others straight to the fourth floor. A sweet fragrance assaulted their nostrils. What they saw was an endless expanse of beautiful flowers. The moon spirit flowers at the top kept scattering their beautiful petals. The ground was covered in oil flowers. Butterflies danced in the air. It was as beautiful as a fairyland. Yunjioge could not help but rub her eyes. She said to Zhishang in disbelief, "Is this an illusion?" She had thought that the tall tower was like hell. It was filled with evil spirits and walking corpses. It was eerie and damp. "No," Zhishang answered perfunctorily. He looked around for a tunnel to the fifth floor. I didn't know that Zhou Xian was such an interesting person. Yunjioge was about to change her opinion of him. Do you really think that this sea of flowers is for viewing? Zhishang looked at her as if she was too naive. Alright, tell me honestly. Are these flowers poisonous or do they eat people? Yunjioge sighed. She had not seen a normal sea of flowers in a long time. Both. Zhishang extended his hand. The purple mist transformed into the shape of a little rabbit. It hopped towards the sea of flowers. The beautiful oil flowers immediately transformed into countless tiny poisonous snakes that pounced over. The beautiful moon spirit flowers turned purple-black and emitted a pungent stench. The beautiful sea of flowers instantly became a paradise for poisonous creatures. The purple mist rabbit suddenly exploded. The oil flower field was instantly blasted open. But very quickly, a large cloud of black mist descended from the top of the tower and filled up the empty space. It was another beautiful sea of flowers. These poisonous flowers are replenished by the killing intent of the tall tower. We can't kill them all, Leng Hui said solemnly. Why don't we blow this place up too? Leng Yamo suggested. It felt so good at the bottom of the tower. Blow up my ass. Yunjioge rolled her eyes and said, Sure. Use your own Dharma artifacts. Don't even think about touching me. She did not have many Dharma artifacts. If she blew them up, she would become a commander without an army. Then forget it. Leng Yamo did not want to use his Dharma artifact either. It was the long sword that grandfather had given the three brothers Dark Star Iron. No need. These poisonous flowers are good stuff. Isn't that female scorpion preparing to evolve into a 5-colored scorpion? Let her come out and eat the poisonous flowers. Zhou Xian's tower was terrifying in the eyes of Leng Hui and the others, but it was nothing in Zishang's eyes. It was far inferior to the ruins that Wan Sha had created. It was enough to give Yun Jioga's spirit pet some benefits. Can a female scorpion eat this? Yun Jioga felt a little nauseous when he thought of how the sea of flowers had turned into a sea of poison. Why don't you just ask it? Zishang was too lazy to explain. All right. Yun Jioga did not summon the female scorpion but summoned the treasure-seeking scorpion instead. Master, does that mean I have work to do? Treasure-seeking scorpion asked impatiently as it wagged its stinger. Its Ling hadn't summoned it in a long time. Other than feeding it the cherry pill, it did not get any extra income. Its wife had lost weight. No, I just want to ask, can your wife eat this poisonous sea? Yun Jioga pointed at the beautiful flower sea. Treasure Scorpion's small eyes observed carefully. It wanted to land and observe closer. Yun Jioga quickly pulled it back. Don't go die without the shell of a scorpion. These poisons were not to be trifled with. The female scorpion had been lying in the spirit beast bag. When it heard the commotion outside, it could not bear it anymore. It crawled out like the wind and expressed its loyalty to Yun Jioga. Ling, I can eat 7. I promise I'll eat all of this poisonous sea. Wife, will you get diarrhea if you eat so much? Treasure Scorpion looked at its wife worriedly. It was about to complain when it was silenced by a stare from its wife. Eat as much as you can. Don't force yourself. Yun Jioga looked at the rainbow stripes on the female scorpion's round body. He was very confident in it. Don't worry, Ling. I won't disappoint you. The female scorpion was very excited. Her husband was the one who earned food for her. It was finally time for her to show off. Go. Yun Jioga stuffed 2 cherry pills to encourage the female scorpion. After the female scorpion ate the cherry pill, it landed on Yun Jioga's shoulder with great vigor. Its round body smashed a small hole in the ground. Treasure Scorpion looked at its wife nervously. It looked like it was ready to go down and help if the situation was not good. However, the female scorpion did not give Treasure Scorpion the chance to show off. It opened its mouth, and the flower sea immediately turned into black fog and entered its mouth, revealing an empty path. Go, go, go. Let's move forward quickly. Yun Jioga and Zishang quickly followed behind the female scorpion. Leng Hui and his brothers also quickly followed. The female scorpion killed in all directions. She ate the flowers in front of her and killed the snakes in front of her. Along the way she cleared a large area. Leng Hui followed behind Yun Jioga in shock. He looked at the female scorpion with envy. As expected of a powerful woman. Even a random spirit pet was so powerful. With the female scorpion's help, Yun Jioga and the others easily passed through the poisonous flower sea and found the stairs to the 5th level. Good job. Yun Jioga generously rewarded the female scorpion with 2 large bottles of cherry pills. Thank you, mistress. The female scorpion hugged the 2 bottles of pills excitedly. After swallowing the poisonous gas, the rainbow stripes on its body had become extremely clear. Now it only needed to cultivate in seclusion for a few days and it would completely evolve into a 5-colored poison scorpion. Wife, you're really too capable. Treasure Scorpion looked lovingly at its tall and mighty wife. Liked how lively his wife was. This bottle is for you. The female scorpion generously handed 1 bottle to Treasure Scorpion. Seeing that it did not want it, she said domineeringly, "This is the first contribution I've made. I must share it. I'll make more contributions in the future." In the future, her husband would not have to work so hard to support the family. Don't worry. There will be opportunities to make contributions in the future. Yun Jioga encouraged the Treasure Scorpion couple, then sent them back into the spiritual beast bag. Then he and Zishang entered the 5th level. The 5th level did not disappoint Yun Jioga. It was gloomy, damp, and strange. In the boundless black fog, ghostly figures flickered, and walking corpses were everywhere. The murderous black fog at the top of the pagoda was so thick that it looked like dark clouds covering the sky. It weighed heavily on the hearts of Leng Hui and his brothers. If even a little bit of the murderous aura leaked out, It would be a huge disaster for the Grey Kingdom. How do we break through this place? Yunjioge was slightly excited. The poisonous sea just now had already given the female scorpion a huge benefit. Would there be other benefits waiting for them on this level? Hasn't the pink female parasite that you're rearing not broken out of its cocoon? This is its opportunity. Zhishang knew Yunjioge's family like the back of his hand. He knew that she had been worried that the little female parasite might have already turned into a fossil in the cocoon. That was why he specifically mentioned it. Chapter 432. Really? Yunjioge's eyes lit up. She didn't have many pets. The previous mouse was possessed by the cute baby, so it didn't count. Other than the treasure-hunting scorpion couple, there was only the pink mother goo that Junichen gave her. Now that she had the chance to hatch the mother goo, of course she was willing. Of course. Zhishang saw Yunjioge so happy, but he felt a little guilty. The method he taught was a little cruel, and he hoped Yunjioge wouldn't go crazy. Then what should I do? Yunjioge couldn't wait to take out the mother goo. The pink cocoon glowed in her white palm. Zhishang took the cocoon and threw it at the place with the strongest evil energy under Yunjioge's expectant gaze. The pink cocoon streaked past Yunjioge like a meteor and disappeared into the boundless darkness. The undead rushed over like sharks smelling blood and drowned the cocoon in an instant. Ah, what are you doing? Yunjioge screamed and turned around to save the mother goo. Zhishang grabbed Yunjioge's shoulder and said calmly, "What's the rush? Your goo should have hatched a long time ago. It's just too lazy to come out. If you don't give it some stimulation, it'll really turn into a fossil. But you don't have to do this. What if something happened? Something goes wrong, I'll save it." Zhishang wouldn't really let anything happen to the mother goo. "You better do what you say," Yunjioge said angrily and stared at the center of the zombies. The dark black fog suddenly fluctuated. Small whirlpools appeared out of nowhere and grew larger. The entire space shook violently like a raging sea. The zombies were sucked into the whirlpools and instantly torn to pieces before turning back into black fog. The place where the cocoon disappeared suddenly spewed out a black and white light, illuminating the entire space. Then a black and white butterfly flapped its wings and slowly flew up. It circled above everyone's head with an illusory fog. The butterfly was about the size of a palm. The left side was pure black, and the fine patterns formed the head of a ferocious male ghost. The right side was pure white, but it was a benevolent woman. Right in the middle was a black body with a pink Lolita face on its head. It was pouting and seemed to be huffing and puffing. Yin-Yang reincarnation butterfly? Zhishang raised his eyebrows and sent a voice transmission to Yunjioge. "You're pretty lucky. This goo worm actually evolved into such a rare species after absorbing the little baby's demonic aura. What's so special about this Yin-Yang reincarnation butterfly?" Yunjioge stared intently at the black and white butterfly. The Yin-Yang reincarnation butterfly, as its name suggests, is capable of reversing the energy of yin and yang. Even in a land of death, it can create life. It is a rare treasure. However, this one of yours is still young. It can only deal with these walking corpses. A Yin-Yang reincarnation butterfly that had truly completed its evolution could create a small world of its own. It was the best artifact spirit to refine a mustard seed space, and it was also the favorite treasure of mighty figures. Yunjioge's eyes lit up and she hurriedly waved at the black and white butterfly. "Baby, come to Big Sister's arms." When the black and white butterfly heard the call, it glanced at Yunjioge and continued to pout. It seemed like it was still angry about being thrown out. "Baby, don't be angry. Big Sister will give you some candy." Yunjioge poured 2 cherry pills into her hand. Satisfied, the black and white butterfly landed on her hand. After eating the cherry pill, it obediently squatted on Yunjioge's shoulder. It was really easy to coax. "Baby, I'll call you Feifei from now on." Yunjioge lovingly stroked Feifei's little head. Feifei flapped its black and white wings. It was very satisfied with this name. "Miss Yun, may I ask what species this butterfly is and where can I find it?" Leng Hui looked at Feifei excitedly. He had just seen with his own eyes that the little butterfly flapped its wings and the demonic aura turned into a whirlpool. Those walking corpses and evil spirits were trapped in the whirlpool and could not escape. If he could have one like this, he would not have to worry about the Grey Kingdom being invaded by the demonic aura. "This is a goo worm that a friend of mine gave me. There shouldn't be a second one in the world." Jioge shook his head. Zhou Xian had cultivated so many goo worms, but he had only produced Fei, the mother goo. In the process of spinning the cocoon, it was invaded by the Pippi Mouse's demonic aura. That was how it coincidentally evolved into the yin-yang reincarnation butterfly. It would probably be very difficult to duplicate another one. I see. Leng Hui was extremely disappointed. He really wanted to buy this butterfly with Jioge, but seeing how Jioge was so fond of this butterfly, he was afraid that she would not part with it. However, he would not be satisfied if he did not ask. Leng Hui was just thinking about what to say when Leng Bai tugged at him and pointed at the empty space where the demonic aura had disappeared. The passageway has appeared. A black ladder appeared in front of them. Let's go. Jioge waved his hand excitedly. The mother scorpion and Fei had already benefited. The next level should be the treasure-seeking scorpion's turn. Thinking of this, he was really looking forward to it. Zishang glanced at Leng Hui and the other two with an icy gaze. Then he pulled Jioge's hand and walked up the black ladder. Leng Hui could not help but gulp. Zishang's gaze was clearly warning them not to get any ideas. Big brother, this is already very good. Leng Bai understood his big brother's intentions. Actually, he really wanted to keep that magical butterfly. However, he knew very well that the entire Grey Kingdom was not worth mentioning in the eyes of these two foreign cultivators. Angering them would only bring disaster. Leng Hui helplessly suppressed his thoughts and followed them up the black ladder. The 7th level was a mirror maze. Crystal mirrors that were polished to the point of being extremely smooth filled the entire space. It was as if there were countless figures staring at them, making them dizzy. How do I get through this? Jioge looked at his reflection in the mirror and felt goosebumps all over his body. Let me take a look. Zishang sized up the mirror maze. The 6th and 7th levels are all mazes. These mirrors are all formed by illusory qi. It's useless even if you break them. We can only pass this level if we find the right path, Leng Hui could not help but say. This mirror maze looked very simple and the mirrors looked very easy to break. However, the fact that it appeared on the 6th level showed how difficult it was. If someone was stupid enough to break the mirror directly, they would immediately be teleported back to the 1st level. The maze would also start spreading from the 1st level. If they could not find a way out, they would be trapped inside forever. This was one of the most complicated challenges in this tower. I hate walking through mazes. Jioge hated these identical paths the most. He could not even turn left or right. Take out your soul-shocking grass. Zishang had already thought of a way. Chapter 433. What for? Jioge was very vigilant. She didn't let down her guard against Zishang just because she got some benefits from the first 2 floors. You have to use it if you want to pass, Zishang said. But I need to use it to refine medicine. Jioge was a little reluctant. This soul-shocking grass was cultivated by absorbing Lu Tianer's constitution. It was very precious. I'll get the cute baby to plant another one for you later. The soul-shocking grass was nourished by Lu Tianer's constitution. It was just a little more spiritual, but its medicinal properties were still the same. All right. Jioge took out the soul-shocking grass in the end. The soul-shocking grass that had its spirit extracted was just a gray seed. Zishang pinched the seed and injected spiritual energy into it. The seed shone and sprouted quickly. A slender gray leaf grew out. A terrified face appeared clearly in the leaf. Zishang put the soul-shocking grass on the ground and put a black hair into the soul-shocking grass mouth. After the soul-shocking grass swallowed the hair, it let out a shrill scream. It was more painful than eating shit. The soul-shocking grass stopped screaming and immediately withered. That's it. Jioge looked at the silent mirror maze and felt very confused. Zishang nodded. Can we go over now? Jioge asked again. No. Zishang shook his head. Then why did you take the soul-shocking grass? Was it just to hear it scream? Did he have to do this to his sister? Of course it's useful. Zishang secretly sent a voice transmission to Jioge. I used the soul-shocking grass to call Yusha. She's the best at walking through mazes. Wait for her to lead us. That hair was Yusha's. Jioge remembered that Zishang had told her about the soul-shocking grass before. No matter how long they were apart, even if they weren't in the same space, they could still summon the person they were looking for. That's right. Zishang nodded, then lifted his chin towards the mirror space and said, "She's here." A red silhouette appeared in the mirror space. It was Yusha. Her hair was messy and her clothes were tattered. She looked like she was about to collapse. She rushed in front of Zishang and yelled, "F***CKU. How dare you use the soul-shocking grass to summon me? Did you do it on purpose? Other than this, there's no other way." Actually, Zishang did it on purpose. The reason why the soul shock grass was called soul shock was that the person who was summoned would suffer a powerful spiritual attack. If one's soul wasn't solid enough, it was very likely that one would be scared to death. "Who are you trying to fool? You're obviously messing with me on purpose." Yusha was even angrier now. Zishang was obviously trying to kick her away and have Lady Goddess all to himself. "So what if I mess with you?" Zishang raised his eyebrows. "Bite him if you dare." Yusha's face contorted in anger. "Yusha, don't be angry. You know that's just how he is." Yunjioga quickly comforted Yusha, not forgetting to glare at Zishang. "I'm fine." Yusha was instantly healed by Yunjioga's concern. He stepped forward, wanting to hold Yunjioga's hand. The Lady Goddess was the best. "If there's nothing else, then hurry up and bring us out. We're in a hurry." Zishang was afraid that Yusha's claws would fall off. "Yusha, do you have a way to get us out of this maze?" Yunjioga quickly stepped forward to smooth things over. He did not want Yusha to really die from anger. "Even if I don't have a way, I'll think of one." Yusha declared her loyalty to Yunjioga. "I'm willing to go through fire and water for her without hesitation." "There's no need for you to go through fire and water. Just lead the way." Yunjioga still could not get used to the feeling of being pursued by a beautiful girl, even if the heart of this beautiful girl was a man. "This way." As Yusha led the way, she told Yunjioga about the tragic situation she had been in after she was captured. Actually, there was nothing tragic about it. She had escaped into the maze on the 6th level the moment she entered the tower. Although this mirror maze was set up by Zhou Xian using his murderous energy, he had never entered it before. Moreover, he was too lazy to deal with Yusha, so he just let her stay in there. Leng Hui was shocked when he heard Yusha's words from behind. Although this gray-skinned woman who was dressed in a palace maid's attire looked very similar to the Grey Nation, he did not expect her to be from the outside world as well. The most terrifying thing was that she was able to master the secret of this mirror maze. This was something that even Zhou Xian could not do. This Yunjioga was not a simple person. Although he was only at the qi refining realm, the people around him were each more powerful than the last. If he could make her stay, those people would definitely stay with her as well. "How can I make her stay?" Leng Hui began to let his imagination run wild again. Leng Bai and Leng Yemo focused their attention on the mirror maze. They did not notice that their big brother's thoughts were getting stranger and stranger. The 6th level was a mirror maze. The 7th level was an even more complicated spiral maze. However, under Yusha's lead, everyone managed to pass through it. Once they walked out of the maze on the 7th level, they found themselves in a long, dark corridor. They were surrounded by black walls above their heads. Yunjioga walked in the middle, Zishang on his left and Yusha on his right. Leng Hui, Leng Bai and Leng Yemo followed behind them. "Yusha, you've been in this tower for so long. Have you seen my grass soul seed?" Yunjioga secretly told Yusha about his dream of the grass soul seed through voice transmission. "I've been staying in the maze and didn't dare to go out. That's why I've never seen your grass soul seed." Actually, Yusha had wanted to sneak out to check on the situation in the tower. However, Zhou Xian had placed shadow spies at the exit of the maze. She would be caught the moment she left. For the safety of her body, she decided to stay in the maze in the end. Yunjioga was slightly disappointed. However, when he thought about it, there were only 2 levels left. He would eventually find the grass soul seed. "What's on the 7th level?" Zishang suddenly turned and asked Leng Hui. Leng Hui, who was still thinking of a way to make Yunjioga stay, was stunned. When he realized that Zishang was asking him, he quickly answered, "It's the place where Zhou Xian placed the white-skinned women." "Are those white-skinned women still alive?" Yunjioga asked. "I don't know." Leng Hui shook his head. He had only heard bits and pieces of information from Zhou Xian. He had never been to the 7th level himself. "I hope they're still alive." Leng Mo's expression was complicated. He had been intimate with those white-skinned women. He really hoped that they were still alive. As long as they were alive, no matter what happened, he would definitely take care of them properly. As the few of them conversed, they arrived at the end of the tunnel. Before them was an extremely tall gray stone door. A lifelike, white-skinned woman with a serene expression was carved on it. She was naked, and in her arms was a little doll with pale skin. The little doll stared at them with its black eyes. Its little mouth was open and there was a black chaos in it. It was indescribably evil and terrifying. Chapter 434. Is there a problem with this door? Yunjioga took a closer look. Although she didn't find anything strange on the door, the child carved on it made her feel uncomfortable. No problem, just open it. Xianxia extended his hand and a light purple palm slowly pushed the huge stone door open. A strange smell with a fishy smell wafted out. Felt like a delivery room. Yunjioga sealed her nose and walked in. The scene inside made her feel extremely disgusted. There were hundreds of crystal coffins inside and naked white-skinned women were lying inside. Their bellies were bulging and there was a red tube extending from their belly buttons. The tubes intertwined and extended upwards. There was a huge blood-red cocoon at the top of the room. It was glowing red and there was a baby curled up inside. This is the demonic embryo? Yunjioga asked Wuxia hesitantly. Wasn't it said that the demonic embryo was difficult to cultivate? That's right. Wuxia looked at the blood-red cocoon in shock. She didn't expect Zhou Xian to be so talented. He actually managed to cultivate a demonic embryo. Yunjioga was about to examine the blood-red cocoon when she heard vomiting sounds coming from behind her. It was Immerse. When he saw the white-skinned women's pitiful state, he felt his scalp go numb and his body turn cold. He couldn't help but vomit. Bai patted his brother's shoulder. He was extremely glad that he couldn't have children and wasn't forced by Zhou Xian to be a stud horse. Otherwise he would be the one vomiting now. This demonic embryo is about to form. We have to destroy it quickly. Otherwise when it hatches it'll be a huge disaster, Hui said in fear. Yunjioga didn't say anything and immediately slashed at the cocoon with his evil sword. With a bang, the evil sword was knocked back by the cocoon bullet. Yunjioga immediately felt a numbing pain in his arm. Don't do anything stupid. Xianxia held Yunjioga down and flicked his finger. A spiritual light that looked like a swimming fish flew towards the demonic embryo. The moment the spiritual light touched the demonic embryo, it was immediately absorbed. Its damage reflection. Xianxia's handsome face revealed a rare serious expression. Damage reflection? What does that mean? Yunjioga asked. It means that all the damage you inflict on it will be reflected back to you. If you kill it, you'll die as well, Wuxia said without waiting for Xianxia to answer. He admired Zhou Xian more and more for raising such a freak. Damage reflection was the most annoying skill of the devilish fetus. What should we do then? Yunjioga rubbed his arm that was still aching. He did not doubt Wuxia's words at all. Wuxia did not say anything. The best way was for him to get rid of the devilish fetus. However, it wasn't easy for him to enter the Azure Waves continent and come to the side of the goddess. He was truly unwilling to be sent back before he could even obtain the favor of the goddess. At that moment, Hui stepped forward and said calmly, I'll kill it. No, let me do it. Bai hurriedly took a step forward. Let me. Immo pushed Bai away and shouted, Don't fight with me. I'll pay for the sins I've committed. These white-skinned women were sent here because of him, so he should be the one to end all of this. Wuxia did not say anything. He was more than happy to watch a good show since someone was willing to die. Yunjioga looked nervously at Xianxia, who was deep in thought. Could it be that he had already guessed that this would happen? That was why he insisted on bringing Hui and the others along. Xianxia came back to his senses and said indifferently, This devilish fetus cannot be killed. If we can't kill it, won't it be a disaster if we keep it alive? Hui asked in shock. I have my own plans. Xianxia did not say anything else. Wuxia could somewhat guess what he was thinking. He transmitted his voice and said, You want to subdue this devilish fetus? Yes. It would be a waste not to subdue such a rare treasure and let Yunjioga be his subordinate. Then what do you plan to do? Wuxia transmitted his voice with interest. Xianxia's gaze shifted to Yunjioga. To be more precise, it shifted to her stomach. Are you crazy? Wuxia's eyes widened. This Xianxia couldn't be thinking the same thing, could he? Yoga has been poisoned by the 9-stage bone-shattering poison. Only 2 layers of the poison have been removed. The great calamity is coming. There is no time for her to slowly detoxify the poison. Xianxia's tone was gloomy. The reason why the goddess had reincarnated was to find a way to deal with the great calamity. However, Yoga was far too weak now. The 9-stage bone-shattering poison was the most important factor limiting her development. She had to find a way to remove it all at once. The devilish fetus was the best time to do so. But this is too risky. What if something goes wrong? Wuxia's expression was one of disapproval. The goddess had spent 1,000 years reincarnating this time. How long would it take the next time? He would rather take things slow than risk losing the goddess because they could not afford to wait. Xianxia was silent for a moment. He then transmitted his voice and said, "The choice is hers. I think she will agree." Although Yoga looked very weak and her personality was softer than the goddess in her past life, she was just as competitive. If there was a chance to completely rid herself of the 9-stage bone-shattering poison, she would not let it go. "What are the 2 of you whispering about?" Yoga could not help but ask. The 2 of them were transmitting their voices to each other. Did they think she was dead? "Come here. I have something to tell you." Xianxia called Yoga to the side and set up a soundproofing barrier. He even had Wuxia stand guard at the side. "What are they doing?" Yoga was slightly displeased. Couldn't they just transmit their voices? They were clearly afraid that the 3 brothers would eavesdrop on them. This was not good for unity. "I have a way to rein in the devilish fetus and remove the poison in your body," Xianxia said solemnly. "What is it? Tell me." Yoga's eyes lit up. "Do you see these women's navels?" Xianxia did not answer Yoga's question immediately. Instead, he pointed at the white-skinned women. "I see them. Is there a problem?" Yoga did not understand. These white-skinned women have the demonic attraction physique. Zhou Xian used them to convert the devilish qi into pure devilish qi and inject it into the devilish fetus. If we remove all these tubes, we'll have to find other devilish qi to form the devilish fetus, Xianxia continued. Yoga's eyes widened when she heard this. "Are you going to sacrifice Wuxia?" Hey. What does this have to do with me? I'm not the one who was poisoned." Wuxia, who was eavesdropping at the side, had a sad expression on her face. She felt that the goddess in this life was not very smart. However, she strangely wanted to protect her. No. Although Wuxia's spirit is of the devil clan, her physical body is still that of a human. She can't satisfy the needs of the devilish fetus. You're the only one who can attract it. Xianxia did not beat around the bush and told her his plan directly. Chapter 435. Xianxia's plan was to first destroy all the tubes that nourish the demonic fetus, then use Yoga's blood to attract the demonic fetus over, allowing it to absorb the 9-bone shatter poison. The plan sounded simple, but it was actually very dangerous. After all, the demonic fetus was not their pet, so it was impossible for it to be obedient. Furthermore, even if the demonic fetus obediently sucked out the 9 shattered bones, it would still cause great damage to Yoga's body. If she was not careful, she might even lose her life. There's still the soul returning wood in the demonic tripod. Even if something really happens to you, I can save you. That was Xianxia's biggest reliance for this plan. But I can't contact the cute baby. If the demonic tripod didn't appear, how could he get the soul returning wood? Shout into your divine sense. If he still doesn't appear, tell him to scram and become someone else's artifact spirit. Xianxia calmly gave Yoga an idea. Is it useful? Yoga asked doubtfully. You'll know once you try. Xianxia knew the little boy's character too well. When the flying corpse exploded, although the demonic cauldron blocked it for a while, it did not hurt its foundation. The little baby hid because he was afraid of being scolded. I'll give it a try. Yoga didn't have much hope as he roared in his spiritual sense. Little Menghua, get out of here. If you don't come out, you can go and be someone else's weapons spirit. As soon as Yoga finished speaking, a familiar moaning sound rang out. Master, I've waited for you for 1,000 years. How can you abandon me? The little baby timidly appeared in Yoga's sea of consciousness with a look of grievance. This adorable child was really pretending to be dead. Yoga gritted his teeth in anger. He wanted nothing more than to give it a good spanking, but when he thought about the soul returning wood, he could only suppress his anger. Where's the soul returning wood? Yunjioga's divine consciousness entered the demonic tripod and asked. Here, here. The little baby brought Yunjioga to the side of the soul returning wood. The soul returning wood, which was only as tall as a person before, had grown quite a bit. Dreamy smoke flowed on the branches, bringing with it a mysterious power. Master, I've always been taking good care of it. Little Menghua said with a smile. At least you're sensible. Seeing that the little baby was quite diligent, Yunjioga didn't care about it pretending to be dead and making him worry. Hee hee. The little adorable child giggled twice and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally escaped a calamity. By the way, can you find the grass soul seed? Yunjioga asked. This grass soul seed was cultivated by little cute baby. There might be some special connection between the two. I can't find it. The little baby quickly shook his head like a rattle drum. It had been playing dead and hiding in the depths of Yunjioga's spiritual sea, so it did not know that the flying corpse's explosion was fated to happen. It thought that there was a problem with the grass soul seed it had cultivated. Look around when you have time. Inform me immediately if you have any news. Yunjioga had a feeling that the grass soul seed was related to the demonic fetus, but unfortunately she could not sense its existence. Oh, okay. The little baby nodded obediently, but he had no intention of retrieving the grass soul seed. What if its master remembered that it had been tricked again? It didn't want to find trouble for itself. Yunjioga stepped out of the demonic tripod and Zishang's voice sounded. Did you find the soul returning wood? I found it. I can use it any time, Yunjioga replied. Alright, then do as I say later. Zishang went close to Yunjioga's ear and secretly gave her a few instructions. Yunjioga nodded repeatedly after hearing that. Finally, she said emotionally, I thought that you brought the Leng brothers here to sacrifice them to kill the demonic fetus. They don't have the ability to kill the demonic fetus. Although Yunjioga had not guessed correctly, it was not far from the truth. The three brothers had other uses. In the distance, the three brothers Leng Hui, Leng Bai and Leng Mo were observing the crystal coffins, trying to find a way to break them. These crystal coffins are made of mystic ice. They can't be broken. Leng Mo tried a few times but did not succeed. Leng Hui was distracted. He kept glancing at Yunjioga and the others. Big brother, stop looking. Leng Bai could not help but pull him. Yunjioga had obviously set up the barrier to avoid them. Why did he have to make them misunderstand? Everyone came here to kill the demonic fetus and Zhou Xian. Why are they hiding at the side and discussing among themselves? Leng Hui was very displeased. Although he had been a bystander in the previous trials, he wanted to help at such a crucial moment. They have their own ideas. Leng Bai was actually a little uncomfortable being excluded by Yunjioga and the others. However, they were too weak. Why do we care so much? As long as they can help us deal with Zhou Xian, it's fine. Leng Mo was optimistic. Speaking of Zhou Xian, why hasn't he shown himself when we're already here? Is he plotting something? Leng Bai could not understand. Zhou Xian had spent so much effort to cultivate the demonic fetus. How could he be willing to let it be destroyed? We ambushed him and he was seriously injured. He's probably recuperating on the 9th level, Leng Hui guessed. Even if he's recuperating, he can't just do nothing, right? Leng Bai still felt that something was wrong. Perhaps he's confident that no one can neutralize the demonic fetus. Leng Hui looked up at the blood-red cocoon in the air. This miraculous thing was created by his younger brother Leng Mo and the white-skinned woman. Strictly speaking, Leng Mo was a descendant of the Leng family. It would be great if the demonic fetus could recognize Leng Mo as its father. With such a powerful person guarding the Grey Kingdom, they would not have to worry about outsiders invading. Leng Hui thought about it and could not help but look at Yunjioga and Zishang. He wondered if they had a way to make the demonic fetus recognize them as its master. Even if they did, they would not tell them. After all, the demonic fetus was a rare treasure. However, Miss Yun already had so many treasures. Why did she still want to fight with them for the demonic fetus? It was her younger brother who planted it. Leng Hui's thoughts ran wild. His eyes were filled with confusion and madness. Yusha was guarding the barrier. When he felt Leng Hui's gaze, he transmitted his voice to Yunjioga and Zishang, who were inside the barrier. There's something wrong with the Grey Kingdom's emperor's gaze. He had seen this kind of gaze many times. It was the gaze of the incompetent who were jealous of the strong. Ignore him, Zishang replied to Wuxia. He then said to Yunjioge, Are you ready? I'm ready. Yunjioge took a deep breath. Her eyes were filled with determination. Zishang removed the barrier and nodded at Wuxia. He said, Let's begin. Juga, have you made up your mind? Wuxia looked at Yunjioge. Her beautiful eyes were filled with worry. I have. Yunjioge nodded with determination. She had to take this opportunity to completely rid herself of the 9 bone shatters poison. All right. No matter what decision you make, I'll support you. Wuxia immediately expressed her loyalty. Chapter 436. Thank you. Yunjioge smiled at Wuxia. Wuxia, the lover of a man's soul and a woman's body in his previous life, was a little strange, but his feelings for her were very sincere. Although she couldn't repay him with her feelings, she would remember this kindness in her heart. There is no need to thank me between us. Wuxia winked at Yunjioge as usual. The corner of Yunjioge's mouth twitched. She silently looked away and pretended to look at Leng Hui and the others. Lady Yun, what are you preparing? Leng Hui couldn't help but walk over. Yunjioge didn't know if she could answer, so she looked at Zishang inquiringly. We are preparing to take back the devil embryo, Zishang said indifferently. Do you really have a way to take back the devil embryo? Leng Hui's voice was trembling. His pale gray face was flushed red with excitement or nervousness. We will know after we try. Zishang ignored Leng Hui and said to Wuxia, Destroy these tubes first. Amen. Wuxia nodded with a serious expression. If he wanted to destroy these tubes, he couldn't just rely on his foundation establishment Cultivation. He had to use the purest devil fire to destroy them. Although only a wisp of his divine sense had transmigrated to Azure Wave Continent, his life devil fire had followed him. However, using it would consume all his cultivation. His physical body would probably be destroyed. But for Lady Goddess, this sacrifice was worth it. Most importantly, he realized that Lady Goddess didn't like women. He planned to go back and try to transmigrate with his true body to gain Lady Goddess's favor. Wuxia closed her eyes and sank her divine sense into the depths of her soul to search for the devil fire. A black devil fire the size of a soybean emerged from her fingertip and slowly floated into the air. It looked like a weak firefly. However, the devil embryo sensed great danger from this little flame. The blood-red cocoon jumped wildly. Those black tubes suddenly left the white-skinned woman's abdomen and shrunk around the cocoon, wrapping it tightly. Wait. Zishang stopped Wuxia's attack and looked around vigilantly. In the next moment, the layers of crystal coffins around them suddenly shattered. Crystal shards shot out like a storm. Zishang pulled Yunjioge into his arms and protected him. Wuxia's devil fire flew above the heads of the 3 of them and emitted a ray of black devil light that enveloped them, blocking the fragments outside. Leng Hui and the others were unlucky. Even though they had drawn their swords in time to form a defensive formation, the force of the impact was too strong. The defensive barrier was on the verge of collapse, and cracks even began to appear on the surface of the gray spirit sword. Leng Hui's heart ached and he couldn't help but complain about Yunjioge's stinginess. That flame was clearly able to perfectly block all attacks, so why didn't he help them? They were partners. Leng Bai and Leng Yemo were completely focused on controlling their swords. Because Leng Yemo was distracted, his long sword moved, and a hole immediately appeared in the defensive barrier. The crystal shards pierced towards him. Big brother, be careful. Leng Yemo immediately stood in front of Leng Gray. The crystal shards all pierced into his back, densely packed like a porcupine. Leng Hui touched her unconscious brother's back. Her hands were covered in blood and she screamed in fright. Leng Bai was shocked as well. An even bigger hole immediately appeared in the defensive circle. Fortunately, Yunjioge immediately commanded Evil Sword to cover the hole after hearing her scream. Otherwise, the other 2 would have been hit as well. Thank you. Leng Bai smiled gratefully at Yunjioge, then hurried to treat Leng Mo's wounds. Although the crystal shards were sharp, Leng Yemo had always been thick-skinned, so he managed to survive. However, he had completely lost the ability to fight. Leng Bai applied medicine on Leng Yemo and fed him some pills. Seeing that he was no longer bleeding, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. Leng Hui lowered his head and squatted at the side, feeling extremely depressed. Big brother, don't be sad. This isn't your fault, Leng Bai consoled him. I know. This isn't my fault. It's all Yunjioga's fault. They're so powerful, but they didn't come to help them. They let them be exposed to danger. They must have been afraid that Immerse would snatch the demonic fetus away, so they did this on purpose. These insidious outsiders could never be befriended. Big brother. Leng Bai frowned. He felt that his big brother had been strange ever since he entered the tower. He didn't have the same imposing manner as before. It seemed that the years of oppression had affected him. He hoped that after killing Zhou Xian and destroying the tower, his big brother would regain his previous personality. However, Leng Bai didn't have the time to console his big brother now. After the crystal coffin shattered, the white-skinned women crawled out and pounced at them with their blood-red eyes. Leng Bai stood in front of Leng Yamo and directed his sword to stab at the white-skinned women. The white-skinned women's bodies flashed with black light and the sword bounced back. Leng Bai was shocked. The white-skinned women's defense was too strong. There was no way to kill them. Over here. At this moment, Yunjioga's voice came from the side. Zishang had made a high platform on the wall and was placing Yunjioga on it. Big brother, let's go over quickly. Leng Bai carried Leng Yamo on his back and flew toward the high platform on his sword. This tower had a very strong suppressive effect on the gray-skinned men. Leng Bai flew shakily with Leng Yamo on his back and almost fell. In the end, Yunjioga threw out a spiritual rope and pulled them up. Leng Hui fared better than Leng Bai. He flew up on his own. The white-skinned women were pushing and shoving at the bottom, roaring crazily. However, because they couldn't fly, they couldn't do anything to them on the high platform. After Yunjioga helped Leng Bai put Leng Yamo down, he checked on his injuries. Leng Bai handled it very well. Leng Mo's wounds had already stopped bleeding, but his vitality was greatly damaged. He had to recuperate after he got out. Yunjioga gave Leng Yamo a cultivation pill to help him recover faster. When Leng Hui saw that Yunjioga was about to take the pill back, he couldn't help but say, Miss Yun, our injuries are too severe. Can you leave that pill bottle for him? I'll give you something in exchange. Yunjioga was stunned. Normally she wouldn't even need Leng Hui to say anything to give her a bottle of pills. However, after falling into the Grey Kingdom, she didn't have many pills left. She really couldn't be generous. Leave it for him, Zishang suddenly said. Yunjioga was even more surprised. Zishang had never been a generous person. However, since he said so, Yunjioga handed it over. Leng Hui took it and opened the jade bottle. When he saw that there were only 3 pills left, his expression darkened. Leng Bai's heart immediately thumped. This was too rude. Anyone who saw it would misunderstand. What? You think it's too little? Yusha raised her brows. The more she looked at this Grey Kingdom's emperor, the more she disliked him. How could that be? Miss Yusha, you've misunderstood. My big brother is just worried about Leng Mo's injuries. Our Grey Kingdom doesn't have anything good either. If you don't mind, please accept this dark steel. Leng Bai quickly took out a storage pouch. Inside it was the supreme grade dark steel that the imperial family had collected over the years. Hopefully, these refining treasures would be able to resolve the misunderstanding between them. Chapter 437. Who cares about your stupid thing? Keep it for yourself. Yusha said in disdain. Yunjioga wanted to reach out to take it, but to not embarrass Yusha, he silently retracted his hand. She doesn't care about it. Don't try to please her, Leng Hui said in a strange tone. Big brother. Leng Bai was really angry now. They were the ones asking Yunjioga for help. What good would it do to offend them like this? Leng Hui stopped talking after being reprimanded by his second brother. He stayed by Leng Mo's side and stared blankly at the blood-red cocoon in the air every now and then. Yusha ignored him. The most important thing now was to help the lady goddess get rid of the poison. Let's begin. Zishang gave Yusha a look. Yusha then directed the little black devil fire to fly towards the blood-red cocoon in the air. Yunjioga looked at the little black devil fire nervously. The blood-red cocoon sensed danger and began to throb. The black tubes immediately spread out and danced wildly in an attempt to put out the devil fire. The devil fire nimbly dodged the tube's attack and successfully reached the blood-red cocoon. It stuck to the cocoon and burst into flames. The black tubes began to burn from their roots. Soon they turned into ashes and dissipated in the air. A childlike shrill cry came from the cocoon. Invisible sound waves spread out, bringing with them an enormous pressure. Yuxia's face was pale. She silently swallowed a mouthful of black blood. The demonic fetus's damage rebound was truly terrifying. She looked fine on the surface, but her insides had been burned black. This time she was really going to be sent back. Yunjioge did not know that Yuxia was injured. When she saw that the black tubes were burned, she immediately tore a small hole in her clothes around her belly button. Then she bit her finger and drew a circular rune pattern on it. The demonic fetus was at its most violent after losing its nourishment. When it smelled a scent that was sweeter than the blood it had drunk before, it immediately swayed in excitement. Yunjioge looked at the blood-red cocoon swaying left and right. It would be a lie to say that she was not nervous. However, at this critical moment, it was impossible for her to back down. She could only persevere to the end. Don't be afraid. Zhou put his arm around Yunjioge's shoulder and stood next to her. The blood-red cocoon noticed that there was also a disgusting smell beside the delicious food. It began to feel restless, wanting to go over but not daring to. It swayed left and right, hesitating. Leng Hui had been staring at the blood-red cocoon. When he saw this, he quickly asked, "Miss Yun, what's going on with this blood-red cocoon? How do you plan to subdue the devilish fetus?" "Don't ask what you shouldn't. If you continue to spout nonsense, get lost." Zhou looked at Leng Hui as though he was looking at a hopping grasshopper. Leng Hui's heart raced. He was very afraid of Zhou, but when he thought about how the demonic embryo, which originally belonged to the Leng clan, was about to be taken away, he couldn't help but feel jealous and resentful. "Big brother, just speak less," Leng Bai urged anxiously. This high platform was their last line of defense. If they were really kicked down by Zhou, they would instantly be torn into pieces by those white-skinned corpses who were eyeing them covetously. Leng Hui reluctantly shut his mouth, but his eyes kept moving back and forth between the blood-red cocoon and Yunjioge's body. Yunjioge didn't have the time to bother with him. Jade Thug, on the other hand, quietly moved closer to Leng Hui, increasing the surveillance on him. The blood-red cocoon was still hesitating. It took a few steps closer to Yunjioge, then retreated. It was so frustrated that it was about to explode. "What's this devilish fetus doing?" Yunjioge was getting impatient from waiting. This devilish fetus was too long-winded. He might as well give it a quick death. "With this Buddhist pestle here, it won't dare to come over," Jade Thug said gloatingly. The devilish fetus was the most sensitive to danger. Even though Zhou had restrained his killing intent, he still scared it. "Get out of the way." Yunjioge pushed Zhou back unceremoniously. Zhou silently retreated a little. When the blood-red cocoon saw Zhou retreating, it immediately followed suit. Zhou stopped moving and the cocoon stopped moving as well. "Gee, what a clever little fellow." Jade Thug clicked his tongue in wonder. When the devilish fetus had just been formed, it only had a murderous nature. This one before him was very intelligent. It was qualified to be the lady goddess subordinate. "You'd better get out of the way." Yunjioge looked at Zhou helplessly. At this rate, they wouldn't be able to deal with this devilish fetus before dawn. They didn't have much time left. Zhou's expression was as dark as still water. He moved and floated away from the high platform. His figure gradually disappeared and he was nowhere to be found. "Hey, I'm just asking you to get out of the way. I'm not asking you to just leave." Yunjioge looked around anxiously, but she didn't see Zhou anywhere. However, when the blood-red cocoon realized that the person it was afraid of had disappeared, it immediately rushed towards Yunjioge, this delicious food, excitedly. Yunjioge's entire body tensed up as she stared at the blood-red cocoon that was rushing towards her. She could even see the blurry face of a baby inside the cocoon smiling at her. According to Zhou's plan, she would draw the spirit-transferring talisman on her belly button. The devilish fetus would definitely fall for it and absorb the 9 heavenly bone fragments as if they were spirit blood. Unexpectedly, this devilish fetus did not play by the rules. It actually bit Yunjioge's left arm. "Oh wow." Yunjioge let out a blood-curdling scream. She felt all the blood in her body flowing back towards her wound. Her face instantly turned deathly pale. Her legs went limp and she fell to the ground on her butt. The blood-red cocoon instantly turned black and red. The throbbing inside was getting more and more intense, as if something was trying to get out. Jioga! Wuxia shouted anxiously. She wanted to rush forward to save Jioga. Don't come over. Jioga's face was pale as she forcefully squeezed out these words. How are you? How are you? Wuxia circled around Jioga. She was so nervous that her pretty face was ashen. Jioga did not have the strength nor energy to answer Wuxia's question. She was using all her strength to communicate with that little brat. Are you sure the grass soul seed is inside that devilish fetus? I'm absolutely sure. Moreover, that grass soul seed has already merged with the primary soul of the devilish fetus. If you work a little harder, you'll be able to awaken it. The little brat was so excited that he was about to fly. Previously, he had cultivated the grass soul seed with the intention of accepting a flying corpse as a subordinate for his master. He did not expect the grass soul seed to be so hardworking that it would accept a devilish fetus as a subordinate for his master. That was a devilish fetus. It was the leader of all evil beings in heaven and earth. It was something that could only be chanced upon. If I work a little harder, I'm going to die. Jioga was dizzy. She exhaled more than she inhaled. She could clearly feel that her life force was disappearing as the devilish fetus devoured her. Fortunately, the poison from the 9 layers bone shatter had also flowed out of her body along with her blood. If I die, so be it. I still have the soul returning wood anyway. As Jioga thought about this, she slowly closed her eyes. Her weak and powerless body fell backward. Chapter 438. Jioga felt like she was going to die. Her thoughts gradually drifted away. Suddenly, a gentle voice called out to her. Goddess, the candidate for godly husband is already waiting in the main hall. Would you like to go and take a look? Divine husband? What the hell was that? Jioga opened her eyes and found that the blood cocoon was gone. The tower was gone too. In its place was a grand palace. She was reclining on a soft couch made of spirit jade. She wore a gorgeous robe made of phoenix feathers, and the South Pole star on it reflected a gentle light. The one who called out to her was a tall and handsome man with curved horns like a sheep. His black hair was curled like seaweed and his long and narrow eyes were pitch black. His lips were rather sexy and he wore black armor. His palms were covered in black scales. Wasn't this Wuxia's real body? He saw it in the maze. Jioga was about to ask Wuxia what was going on, but she couldn't help but say, I know. Let's go take a look. She then stood up and walked forward, with Wuxia following by her side loyally. There were 2 rows of handsome men standing in the white jade hall. Each of them had their own merits, but they were all extremely outstanding. The man at the front was tall and slender. His black hair was like crow feathers and his face was as white as jade. There was a 7-inch purple horn on his head that reflected a mysterious light. His purple eyes were extremely demonic, and his petal-like lips were like a blooming mandala flower. Beautiful, powerful, and terrifying. Even a demon emperor couldn't compare to him. It was Zishang. Jioga saw Zishang and got excited. Why are you here? Tell me, what the hell is this place? Unfortunately, Zishang couldn't hear her. His demonic purple eyes were staring at her passionately. Jioga had known Zishang for so many years, but this was the first time she saw him with such a lively expression. What's your name? Jioga's cold voice sounded in the hall. I'm Zishang. Zishang smiled elegantly. His eyes flashed with admiration, infatuation, possession, and conquest. He was charming and full of life. You're the one. Jioga reached out a white finger and a powerful golden spirit light landed on Zishang. This was the memory of her previous life. Jioga suddenly came to a realization. He didn't expect to obtain it in such a way. She had always been curious about her past life, and now was the perfect opportunity to understand just how much of a scumbag she was in her past life. Jioga began to look through her memories seriously. The memories seemed to have sensed her feelings and started to replay them from the beginning. In his previous life, Jioga was a daughter of divine blood. Not only did she have divine power and the ability to predict the future, she had also inherited the wealth and power of the divine palace. She was the most powerful and noble woman on the continent. When she reached the age of mating, the major races began to compete fiercely, sending the strongest and most charming men to the divine palace for her to choose from. Jioge took a liking to Zishang at first glance, and that night they rolled in the sheets. Not only was Zishang powerful, but he was also talented in that aspect. He was very compatible with Jioge, so it was only natural that he would become her fiancé. Just as the divine palace began to prepare for their wedding, Jioge suddenly discovered that a great calamity was about to descend. Only the Son of Life could stop this calamity. Jioge had deduced that her child was the child of life. In order to conceive the child of life, Jioge began to crazily mate with Zishang. Unfortunately, she had no success. She believed that Zishang was not lucky enough to be the father of the child of life, so she opened a harem and chose the strongest warriors from the major races. She found many lovers to try, and even pushed down her own bodyguard, Wuxia. Unfortunately, no matter how hard she tried, she still failed to conceive the child of life. The calamity soon arrived. The sky above the divine palace was filled with blood clouds, and heaven and earth roared. A hole actually appeared in the sky. In order to delay the arrival of the calamity, she could only use her body to mend the sky. Moreover, after sacrificing her body, her soul had to enter the cycle of reincarnation to find a way to stop the calamity. Jioge had not been called the goddess by her believers for so many years for nothing. At the critical moment, she flew up and used her body to mend the sky, and her soul entered the cycle of reincarnation. However, when her soul was reincarnating, something went wrong. In the end, she ran to a different space-time and became the ruthless chief secret agent who was proficient in both medicine and poison. It was only when the Yi clan's first wife-daughter died tragically in the 10,000 feet abyss that her soul returned to the Azure Waves continent. Then she met Zishang, who had waited for her for 1,000 years. After that, she began a journey of torturing love. Juga. Zishang's anxious voice sounded far and near, as if it came from 1,000 years in the future. Jioge wanted to respond, but she was trapped in her memories and couldn't move. Juga, quickly open your mouth. Zishang shouted again. Jioge opened her mouth in a daze, and she felt an incomparably strange smell sliding down her throat. After she subconsciously swallowed it, her divine sense exploded and she fell to the ground like fireworks. Juga. Zishang's voice became much clearer this time. Jioge could even hear the little babies scream, "Master, please don't die, I don't want to be sealed for another 1,000 years. Shut up." Jioge had a headache from the little baby's noise and couldn't help but scold, "So noisy." "Master, it's great that you're alive, it's great." The little baby continued to scream. Jioge gave up on stopping it. She opened her eyes and saw Zishang looking at her worriedly. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Jioge murmured, and in a trance she remembered the high-spirited and extraordinary arrogant Zishang in her memory. Originally, he should have held a wedding with her and stand with her at the top of the divine palace to accept the worship of believers. But because of the oracle, he became a big joke in the end. "What's wrong with you? Why are you looking at me like that?" Zishang touched his face. Could it be that his face was blooming? "I just feel that I was too stupid and conceited before." Jioge felt ashamed when she thought of the stupid things she did in her previous life. Just because of a vague and unfounded prediction, she wanted to be pregnant with the Son of Life, and even did something as stupid as opening a harem. "You were also doing it for the sake of the world in the past." Zishang's expression was sad. In his previous life, Jioge had stepped on his self-esteem and pride. How could he not hate or resent her? But when he saw the catastrophe come and Jioge used her body to mend the heavens, and her soul entered the cycle of reincarnation, his heart still hurt as if it had been smashed. In the end, he gave up everything to follow her. Even if she hurt him again in this life, he would have no regrets. "In the past, I was stupid to do it for the sake of the world. In this life, I am only doing it for you," Jioge said word by word. Chapter 439. Jioge felt that she was an idiot in her past life. As the saying went, everyone was responsible for the rise and fall of the world. There were so many races and so many almighty beings. If there was a catastrophe, everyone would face it together. She was the only one who foolishly sacrificed herself to mend the sky. It was useless to mend the key points. The catastrophe was only delayed and not resolved. The sky would break in the future and the catastrophe would still come. In this life she had a broken body. Other than the amazing memories from her past life, the advantage of the god's blood was gone. It was impossible for her to use her body to mend the sky. Under such circumstances, Yunjioge felt that it was necessary to spread the news of the catastrophe and mobilize all the forces that could be combined to fight against it. If her identity as the goddess was still useful, she was willing to be the organizer. However, she could forget about sacrificing herself. She would never let Zishang down in this life. Zishang looked at Yunjioge blankly. In the past, the goddess was always high and mighty. Even if they slept on the same bed, it was out of reach. She was the goddess who belonged to the people of the world, not a demon like him. He had no right to monopolize her. He did not even dare to think about it. However, Yunjioge said that she only did it for him in this life. Was he dreaming? It's not a dream. It's exactly what you think. Yunjioge wrapped her arms around Zishang's neck and kissed him hard. This man was worth cherishing. Zishang hugged Yunjioge tightly and kissed her back passionately. His wish of 1,000 years had come true. He was so excited that he wanted to push Yunjioge down and have sex with her. Cough, cough, cough. The furious Wuxia coughed so hard that he almost spat his saliva on the two of them. Yunjioge then realized that she was still on the platform. Wuxia's eyes were about to spit fire. Leng Hui and Ling Bai were staring at them with their mouths agape. Yunjioge pretended to be calm and pushed Zishang away. She stood up and asked, "How's the demonic embryo?" "It's about to break out of the cocoon after sucking your blood." "Try calling it," Zishang answered readily. "All right, I'll try." Yunjioge closed her eyes and began calling the grass soul seed. Master, Master, I'm here. I really thought I was going to be eaten by the monster. Fortunately, Master saved me." The grass soul seed's lively voice came from the blood-red cocoon. "Can you control the demon fiend embryo now?" Yunjioge asked. Of course, the demon fetus had no consciousness to begin with. "I've completely devoured it now, so I'll be able to see you soon," the grass soul seed replied eagerly. "Then hurry up." Yunjioge opened his eyes and saw that the blood-red cocoon was pulsing rhythmically. The baby inside was waving his little hands trying to break out. "How is it?" Zishang asked. "Very smoothly. The demonic embryo is ours. Now we can give it a name. How about we call it Little Grass?" Yunjioge said with a smile. "Sure." Zishang nodded. He felt that the name Xiao was very appropriate for the devilish fetus. "Miss Yun, have you really subdued the devilish fetus?" Leng Hui looked at Yunjioge excitedly. "That's right. When it breaks out of the cocoon, we can go to the 9th floor and kill Zhou Xian," Yunjioge said confidently. That's great, that's great. Brother, did you hear that? Did you hear that?" Leng Hui hugged Leng Bai and shouted madly. He patted Leng Bai's back. "I know. Calm down, big brother." Leng Bai felt that big brother was strangling him very badly, especially when he felt a sharp pain on his back. It was as if something had pierced through his muscles and was drilling into his body. "I can't calm down." Leng Hui pushed Leng Bai away and pounced towards Yunjioge at lightning speed. Wuxia had been paying attention to Leng Hui's movements. She immediately stretched out her hand and tied Leng Hui up with a black rope. "Zhou Xian, stop hiding. Come out." "What do you mean?" Leng Bai asked in shock. "Idiot, you don't even understand. Zhou Xian has been hiding on Leng Hui's body. He wasn't repelled at all." Wuxia looked at Leng Bai with pity. "That's impossible." Leng Bai did not believe it. Big brother was familiar with the scent along the way. "So you've already noticed." Leng Hui's eyes instantly turned red. His voice turned sinister as well. "I've spent a lot of effort to cultivate the devilish fetus. I won't allow you to take it away." As soon as he finished speaking, a raging murderous aura exploded from his body. He broke free from the rope and turned into a ferocious black tiger that pounced towards Wuxia. Wuxia's cultivation base had dropped greatly after using the demonic fire earlier. There was no way she could defend herself against this murderous aura attack. She quickly shouted, "Zishang, save me." Although Zishang did not want to save her, he did not want Yunjioge to think that he was ruthless. He could only float towards Wuxia unwillingly. He struck a spiritual light and destroyed the ferocious black tiger. After the tiger disappeared, more murderous aura descended from the top of the tower. They turned into countless black clouds and surged towards Zishang. However, Zishang blocked them all. The battle between the two was so intense that the entire tower was shaking. Yunjioge did not care about Zishang and Zhou Xian's battle. She stared intently at the grass soul seed struggling in the blood-red cocoon, wondering if she should lend it a hand. However, breaking out of the cocoon was an important test for any living being. She would only cause more trouble if she tried to help. She decided to watch first. Miss Yun, can you think of a way to save my big brother? Lung Bai came to Yun Jioga's side. His face was so pale that it seemed transparent. His voice was filled with pleading. I can't guarantee that. Let's wait until they're done fighting. Yun Jioga shook her head. Previously they had tried so hard to help Lung Hui break free from Zhou Xian's control. However, they failed in the end. This meant that Lung Hui's soul was not strong enough. It was even weaker than the Grand Preceptor's. It would be difficult to save him this time. Moreover, Yun Jioga was not in the mood to care about these things. She was a woman who wanted to save the world. She had to leave this place quickly and mobilize the major clans to fight against this calamity. Miss Yun, you can even subdue the demonic embryo. You must have a way to save my big brother. Lung Bai knelt down in front of Yun Jioga and begged her. He's my only big brother. Please save him. Didn't I say? Yun Jioga did not expect Lung Bai to be so stubborn. Just as she was about to chase him away, she did not expect him to suddenly explode. A ball of black murderous aura enveloped Yun Jioga's entire body. Lung Bai grabbed Yun Jioga and flew to the top of the tower. Lung Hui, who was fighting with Zishang and the others, instantly turned into a rotten corpse. Put Jioga down. Yusha shouted angrily. She did not expect to be killed by Zhou Xian. If you tell me the way to control the demonic embryo obediently, not only will I let you leave this place, I will also personally send you to the transportation formation to return to the ferocious corpse mystic realm. How about that? Ling Bai smiled. His fair, almost transparent face changed. In the end, he turned into a handsome man. Chapter 440. Zhou Xian let her go first. Yusha saw the black aura wrapped around Yun Jioga. She was so anxious that her internal organs were on fire. Let her go. Do you think I'm an idiot? Zhou Xian laughed. Back then he fought with his junior brother Zhou Xin in the Fiend Corpse Mystery Land. He was injured and his body was crushed. Only his soul fell into this mystery land with thin spiritual energy. He suffered a lot to get his revenge. It took him 100 years to finally succeed. As long as he got the way to control the demonic fetus, he could take his revenge and wipe out the entire Dark Soul Mountain. See, hurry up and think of a way to save Jioga. Yusha glared at Zishang. If her body wasn't on the verge of collapse, she would have rushed in to save Yun Jioga a long time ago. Don't worry. Jioga will be fine. Zishang stared at the black aura in shock. He seemed to have smelled God's blood. You think I don't dare to kill her? Zhou Xian thought Zishang was provoking him. He raised his right hand and the tower shook. The huge black aura swept over and drowned Yun Jioga like a tide. I will count to 10. If you don't agree, I will kill her and take out her soul to interrogate slowly. Zhou Xian looked at Zishang and Yusha like a cat playing with a mouse. Don't you dare. Yusha wanted to charge forward but Zishang stopped her. Smell it carefully. Isn't this smell familiar? Zishang asked solemnly. What smell is familiar? Yusha's meridians were mostly burnt. Her senses weren't as sensitive as before. Your master's smell, Zishang said word by word. Master. Yusha was stunned. His only master was Lady Goddess. Could Lady Goddess have awakened? He calmed himself down and felt it carefully. He really did smell a scent that was extremely dignified and noble. That scent was like it was made from 10,000 years old ice. It made one's entire soul tremble. So, do you still want to charge forward? Zishang saw that Yusha had woken up and let go of her hand. No need. Yusha looked at Zhou Xian with pity. Poor guy. He didn't know what kind of terrifying thing he had caught. He actually dared to threaten the Lady Goddess. He wouldn't even know how he died. Humph, deliberately mystifying things. Do you think I'll fall for it? Zhou Xian did not take the conversation between Zishang and Yusha seriously at all. He decided to teach the two of them a lesson. With a wave of his hand, the black baneful aura surrounding Yun Jioga slowly tightened. Filthy ant, who gave you the courage to provoke me? A cold and dignified voice rang out. It was like an immortal voice from the 9th heaven, reverberating throughout the entire tower. Who is it? Zhou Xian had never thought that there would be a fourth person in the tower. He immediately looked around nervously. However, he discovered that Yunjioga, who should have been struggling in his baleful aura cage, had changed. There seemed to be a flame burning between her brows. The phoenix feather flower was as dazzling as a nirvana phoenix. Streaks of red patterns spread from her forehead down. The demonic face that had been deeply poisoned slowly faded away. Her face was as white as jade, like a snowy mountain sealed in ice for thousands of miles. Her black eyes were emotionless, like black iron that had been buried for thousands of years. The color of her lips was extremely light. It was as if she had abandoned all emotions and desires, leaving only holiness behind. Golden red light wings spread out behind her, illuminating the world with the light of God. Who are you? Zhou Xian could not stop trembling. You don't deserve to know who I am. Yunjioga's indifferent gaze fell upon Zhou Xian. He could not help but tremble. He felt like a lowly commoner. He did not deserve to raise his head to look at the goddess. He did not even deserve to grovel at her feet. Yunjioga flicked her finger. Zhou Xian's soul flew up automatically. He looked at her with the most worshipful gaze. He opened up his soul consciousness without reservation, allowing Yunjioga to see. Treasure map Arcane Realm chosen. Interesting. After Yunjioga finished reading, she tapped her finger lightly. Zhou Xian turned into a wisp of green smoke and flew toward the grass soul seed that was still struggling in the blood-red cocoon. After the grass soul seed swallowed the devilish fetus's consciousness, its power was greatly reduced. It was extremely difficult for it to break out of the cocoon. However, it could not ask its master for help. Just as the grass soul seed's strength was getting weaker and weaker, Zhou Xian's soul suddenly flew over. It turned into the purest energy and was injected into its body. The grass soul seed finally broke out of the blood-red cocoon and climbed out. Master. The grass soul seed panted heavily. It wanted to crawl toward its master but found that its little fat legs had no strength at all. Why do you look like this? Yunjioga looked at the chubby little thing in front of her speechlessly. Its little black eyes were squeezed into two lines by the fat. Its cheeks drooped down. Even its nose could not be seen. The little fat on its body was like layers of tires. This overweight appearance did not match the legendary devil fetus that could destroy the heavens and earth. Master, don't look at me like this. When I grow up, I will be very powerful, the grass soul seed hurriedly promised. It had only swallowed the devilish fetus's consciousness. It could not completely merge with the devilish fetus's body. When it completely absorbed the devilish fetus's power, it would become its master's most powerful fighter. Master, let Xiao come to the demonic tripod to accompany me, the little baby shouted impatiently. It had raised the grass soul seed. It was half its son. It had the responsibility to take care of the grass soul seed. Go in. Yunjioga pointed lightly and Xiao was absorbed into the demonic tripod. The two little fatties hugged each other and started talking affectionately. The little baby's face was full of love. He had completely immersed himself in the role of an elder. After Yunjioga dealt with the grass soul seed, his gaze shifted and landed on Yusha. Her eyes were noble and cold. There was a sense of tension and oppression. It made people feel respect from the bottom of their hearts. Goddess. Yusha's eyes were red with excitement. She immediately knelt down on one knee and looked up at her most respected master with admiration. From today onwards, you will regain your identity as the head guard of the divine palace. I order you to go back and lead the devilish race. Prepare for the catastrophe. Yunjioga reached out to Yusha. A dot of golden light fell into her Baihui acupoint. Yusha's physical body shattered into pieces, revealing Wansha's true soul. The goddess's lover could not hold a position in the divine palace. When Wansha was taken into Yunjioga's harem, his identity as the head guard was also taken back. Now that he had regained his title, it meant that he was no longer a member of Yunjioga's harem. Yes, your subordinate will go back and conquer the devilish race. Wansha's expression was calm. He was the goddess' most loyal head guard first and then her lover. The change of identity was all up to the goddess. He would obey all her orders unconditionally. Chapter 441. Zishang stood at the side and watched silently. He knew that Wansha was more loyal to Yunjioga, which was why he tolerated Wansha staying by her side. Go do what you need to do. I will contact you when I return to the demon realm. Yun Jioge was very satisfied with Wan Sha's attitude. He was indeed her most loyal guard captain. Yes. Wan Sha bowed towards Yun Jioge once more and left without further ado. After Wan Sha left, only Yun Jioge and Zishang were left in the empty tower. Why are you looking at me like that? Yun Jioge looked at Zishang's nervous expression and smiled slyly. Do you still mean what you said just now? In this life only he cared about such words. He believed Yun Jioge, but he didn't dare to believe Lady Goddess. Of course I do. Yun Jioge flapped her wings and landed beside Zishang. Her noble, cold and dignified face had a funny expression. She was no different from before. Zishang wasn't used to Yun Jioge like this. He asked hesitantly, "Has your god blood recovered?" "No, I just have some in my consciousness. It's just enough to act cool," Yun Jioge answered honestly. The bit of god blood she had could crush a small shrimp like Zhou Xian, but it wasn't enough to deal with powerful beings. It was even more impossible for her to use it on the sky. Then save it for the critical moment. Zishang breathed a sigh of relief. Though Yun Jioge recovering her god blood was beneficial to the world, he still preferred her like this. "Don't worry, I won't pretend." There were no outsiders in the tower, so she pretended to be familiar with it. She definitely wouldn't dare to do anything outside. Her messy lovers from her previous life were still looking for her. If they knew she had lost her power, she would be screwed. One had to know that the beautiful men in her harem were very cruel. They could turn on you at any time and eat you up. Oh, what did you see with Zhou Xian's soul? Zishang believed Yun Jioge knew what she was doing, so he asked another question. Zhou Xian and Zhou Xin are brothers. They both chased after the daughter of the Purple Cloud sect's leader, Nan Gongyu, and traveled together. Later on, the three of them accidentally obtained a treasure map. They followed the treasure map and entered a mystic realm. Unfortunately, Nan Gongyu's soul was lost before she could understand the situation in the secret realm. Zhou Xin was cursed in order to save her, but Zhou Xian escaped unscathed because he ran fast. Zhou Xin wanted to return to the mystic realm to search for Nan Gongyu's soul, but the treasure map disappeared automatically when they left the mystic realm. After that, the two of them split up to search. Zhou Xian had just found the most important part of the treasure map when he was plotted against by Zhou Xin and fell into this mystic realm. Yun Jioge told the whole story in one breath. Zishang was not interested in the emotional entanglement between Zhou Xian, Zhou Xin and Nan Gongyu. He only wanted to know two questions. First, what is the secret realm on this treasure map? Second, why did Zhou Xin attack your grandfather? These questions are complicated. Let's go to the 9th floor and get the treasure map first. Zhou Xian was dead and the tower could collapse at any time. It was too dangerous to stay there. All right. Zishang pulled Yun Jioge's hand and walked towards the 9th level. Anyway, he would always be by her side and she could talk whenever she wanted. Wait. Yun Jioge looked at the unconscious Leng Yemo in the corner. If they did not move him out, he would die when the tower collapsed. Why are you still caring about him? Leng Yemo was just an insignificant person in Zishang's eyes. The Grey Kingdom needs him and so does Bao Er. Yun Jioge had stayed in the Grey Kingdom for a while after all. She still hoped that this small mystic realm would become better. Then I'll send him out now. Zishang liked Yun Jioge, who was so kind. He was willing to put in more effort for her. Then you should be a good person to the end and cure him. If the poison in Leng Mo's body was cured, not only would he not be able to have a normal child, but he would also not live for long. All right. Zhou Xian was already dead. Curing the poison in his body was a piece of cake. Zishang shot a purple spirit light at Leng Yemo. After clearing the poison in his body, he moved him out of the tower. After sending Leng Yemo away, Zishang brought Yun Jioge to the last floor of the tower. It was a simple and unadorned quiet room. On the left was a tea table made of red spirit wood. On it was a white tea set with blue and white flowers. On the right wall were 3 brown futons. In the corner was a white crane 9-turn-top incense burning inside. The faint fragrance kept circulating in the room. The spiritual energy in the whole quiet room was very dense. The treasure map is here? Zishang glanced at the quiet room and did not find anything special. It's here. Yun Jioge walked in front of the incense burner. She reached out and touched the top of the white crane's head. Then she pressed down on the protrusion in the middle. The white crane's eyes slowly brightened. It opened its mouth and let out a soft cry. Then it flapped its wings and left the incense burner flying towards the roof. The wooden roof twisted and changed. The whole quiet room changed again. The tea table and futons all disappeared. The space became very spacious. In the middle was a huge pentagonal teleportation formation. The blood-red lines were very clear. There were medium spirit stones on each of the 5 corners. A ball of light floated above the teleportation formation. There was a brown sheepskin scroll inside. It was the last treasure map. Zhou Xian is quite considerate. It was really a teleportation. Xianxia waved his hand and took the ball of light. After checking that the treasure map was real, he said to Yunjioga, "Let's go." Let's go. Yunjioga and Xianxia stood on the teleportation formation. With a flash of white light, the two of them disappeared. The 9-storied pagoda was also smashed and turned into ashes. Fiend Corp's secret realm. Zhou Xian stood in the safe zone with a gloomy expression. He looked at the black and red sky. There were only 4 hours left until the opening of the Fiend Corp's secret realm. This meant that his mission had failed again. Ever since he failed to capture a flying corpse last time, he wanted to lure another flying corpse over. But for some reason all the flying corpses had disappeared. Even the number of golden corpses had decreased. After careful calculation, he realized that the fiend chi in the Fiend Corp's secret realm was declining. If this continued, the Fiend Corp's secret realm would not be able to produce any more flying corpses in less than 100 years. When that time came, he would not even be able to find the last treasure map. Zhou Xian thought of Nangongyu, who was still lying in the forbidden area of Enemy Peak. His heart felt like it was being clenched tightly. Although he used the blood lotus to protect Nangongyu's physical body, if he did not find her soul, it would be difficult for her to fully recover in the future. For a moment, Zhou Xian really wanted to stay in the Fiend Corp's secret realm for another 100 years. Elder, Senior Apprentice Brother Imo and the others want to ask when you will be gathering at the gathering place. Yue walked over and asked softly. The disciples of Joyous Union sect and Black Fiend sect had already gone to the gathering place to wait. Now only the Fiend Corp's sect disciples were left. Tell them to pack their things. We will leave in an incense's time. Zhou Xian gave up on the idea of staying. The resources here were too scarce. Moreover, he was worried about leaving Nangongyu in the forbidden area. Yes. Yue heaved a sigh of relief. She was really afraid that Zhou Xian would go crazy and drag the disciples to stay in the Fiend Corp's secret realm. Just as she was about to turn around and tell Senior Apprentice Brother Imo the good news, a dot of light suddenly appeared in the black and red sky and flew towards them. Chapter 442. Cus stared dumbfoundedly at the growing speck of light in the sky. The person in the speck of light looked familiar. It was junior brother Yunjio. Get out of the way, get out of the way. Yunjiogu realized that she was falling too fast. If this continued, she might kill someone. Zhou Xian pulled Yue and quickly retreated. Xianxia, help me. Yunjiogu had lowered her cultivation to the chi refinement stage when she left the secret realm, so she couldn't control her posture. Xianxia immediately released a spiritual light to protect her. The two of them crashed to the ground, creating a huge crater in the safe zone. Mo Jingyuan, Jin Yanwei, Wolf Fong, Jin Chuan, Bai Lan, Yuzian and the others who heard the commotion all ran out and surrounded the crater. Amidst the dust, Yunjiogu crawled out of the crater in a sorry state, while Xianxia was still hidden beside him. Junior brother Yunjio, you're not dead? Wolf Fong looked at Yunjiogu with wild joy. Senior brother Wolf Fong's greeting is too special. Who would ask if someone was dead or not? Didn't you disappear in the big explosion? Bai Lan originally thought that she could explain it to her master after Yunjiogu died. She didn't expect her to appear again. I disappeared in the big explosion, but I didn't expect my luck to be so great that I actually fell into a secret realm. Yunjiogu began to bluff. There's a secret realm here? Bai Lan's eyes widened, the others also pricked up their ears. Every opening of a new secret realm meant rich resources. If they could get a share, they would be rich. That's right, there's a small secret realm in this Fiend Corp's secret realm. Yunjiogu generously admitted. Master, the secret realm that junior brother Yunjio found should belong to our sect. Jin Yanwei felt that the credit should belong to his master. We'll talk about this when we get back to the sect. Zhou Xian knew that the small secret realm must be related to Zhou Xian. He didn't want to ask about it in front of so many people. Master is right, let's hurry to the gathering place. Jin Yanwei nodded in agreement. Elder, junior brother Yunjio will attract attention if he goes out with us like this. Why don't we let him disguise as your corpse? Siyue remembered that when they were fighting the flying corpses, the other 4 demonic sects saw Yun Jiogu and knew that she disappeared after the flying corpses exploded. If Yun Jiogu suddenly appeared, it would make them suspicious and the small secret realm would be exposed. Yu is very thoughtful. Yunjiu, it's safer for you to stay by my side. Chosun began to think about what kind of corpse he could make Yunjiogu look like. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Actually, there's nothing good in that secret realm. Even if we tell them, they might not be willing to come. Yunjiogu did not want to pretend to be Chosun's corpse. Who knew if he would take advantage of this chance to make a move, he might as well just say it out loud. Corpses Yun is. By the flying in is. From the way in. Chen's Shan's then he corpse he the corpse is in the way into of the way you. Yunchin of the way. Jiaf the Yun. The. By Yun. Yujin. The. That's it. Bai Lon didn't believe him. Every small secret realm had treasures. The secret realm in the secret realm must be special. Of course not. The ores are nothing. The most special thing is that it can change a person's constitution. Yun Jiogu knew that if he didn't tell them something, they wouldn't give up on the small secret realm. What kind of physique can it change? Everyone became excited when they heard this. Haven't you noticed my change? Yun Jiogu blinked and put her hand on her chest. In order to transition back to her original identity, while retaining her original corpse poison appearance, her body had already turned back into a woman's body. Junior brother Yunjio Yu. Wolf Fong noticed that Yun Jioji's body had become more graceful. She had curves, it was clearly a woman's body. That's right. The secret of the small secret realm is that it can turn men into women and women into men. Yun Jiogu revealed a sweet smile. Turning into a woman means castrating yourself? Bai Lon blurted out. Of course not, I'm a woman through and through now. Yun Jiogu swept his long hair behind his ear and narrowed his eyes at Bai Lon as he said, Senior Sister Bai, although I have a good temper, my corpse has a violent temper. If you keep talking nonsense, I can't guarantee what will happen. Bai Lon instantly felt a chill on her neck. It was like she was being stared at by a fierce beast. Thinking of the 1,000-year-old living corpse, she immediately suppressed the thought of checking Yun Jioji's body. She forced a smile and said, Junior brother Yunjio, I was just too surprised. I didn't mean to offend you. You should be magnanimous, don't lower yourself to my level. Yun Jiogu was too lazy to care about her. He turned to Chosun and said, Elder, the small secret realm is like this. If anyone doesn't believe me, they can try. But I can't guarantee that they will successfully fall into that place. You didn't make landmarks when you came out? Chosun had a serious face. He had a completely professional look on his face. Elder really thinks too highly of me. I'm just a chi condensation disciple that hasn't even seen landmarks before. How could I make such a high-class thing? Making landmarks was a skill that only golden core stage cultivators could learn. The materials needed to make landmarks were terrifying. Only the sect could provide them. In the end, the secret realm would belong to the sect. We'll talk about this when we get back to the sect. For safety's sake, you should pretend to be my corpse and stay by my side. Chosun wasn't interested in the small secret realm. He took out a black cloak and gave it to Yun Jiogu. Just put it on. This cloak is a high-grade shielding device. There's nothing done to it. Put it on. Zishang's voice came over. Disciple understands. Yun Jiogu put on the cloak and followed beside Cho Sr. Let's go to the gathering place. Chosun took out his bat bone spur and brought Yun Jiogu to the gathering place. Siyue, Bai Lon, Wolf Fong and the others followed behind them. After flying for around 2 incense sticks of time, they arrived at the gathering place. At this time the other 4 demon sects had already gathered. Corpse sects Emo Jingyuan, Joyful Union sects Feng Ling Air, Thousand Ghost sects Gui Ming, Soul Devouring sects Chen Hun, and Black Fiend sects Li Kuan and Jingwei were all standing. Compared to Corpse sects complete disciples, the 4 demon sects were missing a lot of people. When they saw them come over, their expressions were very ugly. If Zhou Xian hadn't forced them to fight against the demonic corpse tide, they definitely wouldn't have lost so many people while hiding in the safe zone. Chapter 443. The He Huan sect's Feng Ling heir and the spirit-devouring sect's 1,000 spirits saw Zhou Xian come over and thought about it before bowing to him. When the two of them saw the cloaked person behind Zhou Xian, they were a bit confused. Could this black-cloaked person be a life-sourcing corpse? The 10,000 Ghost sect's Gui Ming and the Black Fiend sect's Li Kuan also misunderstood and were very angry. If Elder Zhou Xian brought a life-sourcing corpse in, then why didn't he summon it when they fought against the demon corpse tide, causing them to lose so many disciples? Zhou Xian ignored the angry gazes of the elite disciples of the 4 sections. Right now he just wanted to bring Yunjioge back to Enemy Mountain and ask about the matter with Enemy Mountain. Yunjioge stood there in boredom for a while and suddenly found that she had forgotten a very important matter. Everyone needs to hand over 10,000 infernal beads to leave the demon corpse secret realm. I don't have a single one. What should I do? Yunjioge asked Zishang. Was there enough time to kill the demon corpses? Zhou Xian will be happy to help you solve this problem. It would be a waste not to use a helper that was delivered to his door. That's right. Yunjioge sent a sound transmission to Zhou Senior. I have them here. Not to mention 10,000 infernal beads, Zhou Xian could even get 100,000. Many thanks, Elder. Yunjioge waited for the secret realm to open without any pressure. Not long after, the dark red sky of the demon corpse secret realm began to roil. An invisible large palm tore through the sky and grabbed at them. Yunjioge felt this pressure and the remnant god blood in her soul became angry, like she couldn't allow herself to be offended. Zishang noticed her abnormality and grabbed her hand to calm her down. Don't worry, it's just an artifact to pass through the secret realm. I know. Yunjioge took a deep breath and then let out a breath, suppressing the restless god blood in her heart. The large hand grabbed everyone in the gathering area and passed through the clouds, finally leaving the demon corpse secret realm. I'm out. Father is finally out. Woo woo woo, I'm still alive. This is great. A few disciples of the 5 sects couldn't help roaring. The demon corpse secret realm was too oppressive and painful. Yunjioge looked at the blue sky and white clouds above his head. The breeze that carried the scent of grass also felt like it was a lifetime ago. Zishang stood quietly by Yunjioge's side. No matter where she was, as long as she was there, she would be his home. At this time, after the Black Fiend sect elder heard his disciples' tearful complaint, he walked towards Zhou Xian with a gloomy old face. Zhou Xian, you violated the rules and went to the Fiend Corpse secret realm. What is the meaning of this? It has nothing to do with you, Zhou Xian retorted stiffly. It is true that you entering the secret realm has nothing to do with us, but you are using the disciples of the 4 sects as spears. You are looking down on us. The elders of the 1,000 Ghost sect were also very dissatisfied. The soul-devouring sects Zhou Hua and the Joyous Union sects Peach Blossom Fairy remained silent. If I really used your disciples as spears, would they be able to bring out so many baleful pearls? Zhou Xian sneered and said, I only went in to take the flying corpse's bloody evil beads. If it wasn't for your disciples begging me to save them, I wouldn't have cared about their lives. Elders, you have misunderstood. At that time there was a change in the Fiend Corpse secret realm. Normal fiend corpses had the cultivation of iron corpses. If it wasn't for Elder Zhou Xian's appearance, I'm afraid we would have all died, Cus said sincerely. Not a single disciple of your corpse sect died. Of course you have to say something nice. The 1,000 Ghost sect elder said unkindly. If I don't protect my own disciples, do you think I will protect you cowards who only want to run away? If you are dissatisfied, then come find me at the corpse sect. I will accompany you anytime. Zhou Xian was not afraid of these old things at all. If they really wanted to fight, the corpse sect was not to be trifled with. Brother Zhou, you misunderstood. The ghost elders did not mean that. The Peach Blossom Fairy smiled sweetly and said, the Fiend Corpse secret realm is full of dangers. Anything can happen. Although many disciples died, the remaining disciples all successfully completed their missions and returned. I believe this is all because of Brother Zhou. That's right. I have known Zhou Xian for so many years. I believe he did not go for our disciples. There must be some misunderstanding. Zhou Hua also spoke. Qian Hun had told him that Zhou Xian took care of them in the secret realm. Since you are friends with him, you will naturally speak up for him. Anyways, we won't let this matter go. Chosen, just you wait. The Black Fiend sect saw that the soul-devouring sect and the Union Joy sect were on Chosen's side. It would not be good for him and the Thousand Ghosts sect to continue fighting, so he decided to go back to the sect and ask for an explanation from the Corpse sect. The Thousand Ghosts sect had the same idea. They called the remaining disciples onto the White Bone ship and left with the Black Fiend sect. In the blink of an eye, only the Union Joy sect, the soul-devouring sect and the Corpse sect were left. The Peach Blossom Fairy's beautiful eyes looked at the cloaked Yunjioga behind Cho Senator. She smiled and said, "This should be Brother Chao's Yin corpse. I have not seen you bring it out in so many years. How about you show it to us today?" After she finished speaking, a pink spirit light floated in her hand and entered Yunjioga's cloak. "Peach Blossom, don't go too far." Cho Sin frowned and directly dispersed the pink spirit light. "I was just joking. Why are you so serious?" The Peach Blossom Fairy was not embarrassed. Instead, she acted like a spoiled child. "It's getting late. I still have things to do, so I will leave first." Chosen was not in the mood to deal with these two old friends. After he released the sect's black ship, he flew up with Yunjioga. The black ship flew in the direction of the Corpse sect. Chosen brought Yunjioga into the cabin and laid down a sound barrier. Then he asked coldly, "Tell me the truth. What did you see in the small secret realm?" It seems that nothing can be hidden from the Elder's eyes. In fact, there was not only a black iron mine in the small secret realm, but also an evil spirit tower. There was a golden core realm cultivator called Zhou Xian who captured me and wanted to escape by possessing my body. However, he was killed by my Yin corpse. Then I inexplicably became a woman. Yunjioga told him half the truth about Zhou Xian. "You killed Zhou Xian?" Cho Sen's black eyes were very scary. Yunjioga's heart skipped a beat. This guy couldn't be reminiscing about his brotherhood with Zhou Xian, right? Jiske, if she had known earlier, she would have said that Zhou Xian had died in the tower and she could have gone in to collect his corpse. However, since she had already said it, it was impossible to deny it. Yunjioga admitted it straightforwardly. "That's right. I killed him. Who told him to steal my body?" "Good kill." Chosen suddenly laughed. Unfortunately, his laughter was uglier than crying. After he finished laughing, the bat spikes on his body suddenly shot out and pointed at Yunjioga's throat. "Tell me, where is the treasure map?" Chapter 444. Treasure map. Is Elder talking about this? Yunjioga smiled. The purple deceased sword appeared beside her and showed her the treasure map from Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian's eyes lit up and he immediately reached out to grab it, but was blocked by the purple deceased sword's light. "Elder, why are you in such a hurry? I have no use for this treasure map. I think we can sit down and talk about it." Yunjioga sincerely wanted to cooperate with Cho Senator after all. He had been to the secret realm and was more experienced. "What do you want to talk about?" Zhou Xian gloomily looked at Yunjioga, finally not as anxious as before. "I heard something interesting from Zhou Xian. There was once a pair of brothers who fell in love with the same girl." Yunjioga said as he looked at Cho Sen's face. Seeing that he was unmoved, he revealed his trump card. "If the sect master knew that the girl you are hiding in the forbidden area is the daughter of the Purple Cloud sect master, I wonder what he would think." "You dare threaten me?" Cho Sen squinted his eyes. A little chi condensation cultivator dared to threaten him. Did she really think he was afraid of her 1,000-year-old Yin corpse? "Elder misunderstood. I am not threatening you. I just want to cooperate with you and go to the secret realm." Yunjioga was not afraid of Cho Sen turning hostile. Although Cho Sen was a cold person, he was very attached to his feelings. In the beginning, Nangongyu liked the humorous Cho Xian more, but Cho Sen always silently guarded her. After Nangongyu's soul disappeared, he protected her body and cultivation at all costs. Yunjioga going to the secret realm did not conflict with his goal. "You want to go to the secret realm with me?" Cho Sen revealed a mocking smile and said, "I admit that your Yin corpse is not bad, but it will be too hard to protect you there." In the beginning, the three of them were close to the late Golden Core stage. In the end, they were trapped the moment they entered the secret realm. They didn't even know what the secret realm was like. "You don't need to worry about that. I have my own methods. I'm not afraid to tell you, other than Zhou Xian's map, I have 2 other treasure maps." Yunjioga took out the treasure map he got from the Thunder Country. Together with Zhou Xian's map, it was a complete treasure map. Zhou Xian didn't think that the treasure map he had been searching for so many years would be completed so easily. However, he did not lose his mind. Instead, he looked at Yunjioge and said, "Are you Yun Tianwei's granddaughter, Yunjioge?" Yunjioge. It was just a difference of one word, but he had never noticed it. Elder Zhou Xian is indeed a smart man. Yunjioge did not deny it. She would return to her true form sooner or later. I didn't expect you to actually come to our Corpse sect. No wonder his subordinates couldn't find her in the 100,000 mountains, so she was hiding in the Corpse sect. Elder, let's not beat around the bush. I can give you the treasure map, but I hope that if one day my identity is exposed, you can stand here and say a few good words for me. Yunjioge hiding his identity in the Corpse sect was a huge taboo. If it was investigated, he would be beheaded. Fortunately, she had a clean background and was not a disciple of a righteous sect. If someone pleaded for her, she could turn a big problem into a small one and a small one into nothing. No problem. Zhou Xian agreed without hesitation. He would first get the treasure map and then deal with the rest later. Yunjioge saw through Zhou Xian's thoughts and said with a smile, "Elder, before I give you the treasure map, I have something to tell you." Before Zhou Xian died, he found a way to find Nangong Yu's soul. What, are you serious? Zhou Xian stared at Yunjioge's eyes, trying to see if she was lying. Of course, how could I joke about something like this? Yunjioge said with a serious expression. What is it? Tell me quickly. Zhou Xian even released the demon monkey Corpse this time. He looked like he would kill Yunjioge if she didn't tell him. Zishang took a step forward and silently confronted Zhou Xian. It looked like a storm was brewing. Elder Zhou Xian, when we get to the secret realm, I will naturally tell you the way. To show my sincerity, I will give you the treasure map first. Yunjioge patted Zishang's shoulder. Zishang expressionlessly raised his hand. Purple spiritual energy carried the treasure map to Zhou. Senator Zhou Xian looked at the two treasure maps, then at Yunjioge and Zishang. In the end, he chose to give in. You better not play any tricks. Otherwise, I will not let you go. Elder, don't worry. I am very sincere. All right, take your time to study the treasure map. I will leave first. Yunjioge left the cabin with Zishang. When did Zhou Xian find a way to find Nangong Yu's soul? Zishang asked telepathically. There is no such thing. I lied to Zhou Senior. If she didn't say that, Zhou Xian would not bring her to the secret realm. He might even stab her in the back. Aren't you afraid that he will go crazy after he finds out the truth? Zishang felt a headache coming on. Based on Zhou Xian's love for Nangong Yu, if he found out that Yunjioge lied to him, he might really die with them. That won't happen. I have a rough idea of what is going on with the treasure map. If I really want to help him find Nangong Yu's soul, there is still a way. Yunjioge was not making empty promises. There was some truth to what he said. What is going on with the treasure map and the secret realm? You can tell me now, right? Yunjioge was not willing to talk about it back in the tower. Now he really had to. Actually, the mystic realm where the treasure map is located is related to the upcoming catastrophe. The Yunwei Si isn't my grandfather either. It's my former guard Li Wei. Yunjioge had only discovered these secrets after obtaining the memories of his previous life. Li Wei. Why is he here? Did you choose him? Zishang had lived in the Divine Palace for a long time. He knew Yunjioge's guards very well. Wansha was the strongest. Li Wei was the most unknown. He was like an invisible man who did not like to talk. His divination skills are the strongest. Only he can find my reincarnation. Yunjioge did not choose the wrong person. Li Wei had indeed divined that Yunjioge would be reincarnated in the Thunder Nation's Yun Manor. That was why he had arranged everything long ago and waited for his master to reincarnate as Yunjioge's grandfather. Unfortunately, no matter how much he calculated, he did not predict that Yunjioge's reincarnation would be problematic. Yunjioge had gone to other places before returning. Based on his personality, even if you did not return to this body in time, he should have stayed by your side. Why would he be poisoned by Zhou Xian and run away? Zishang was even more confused. Although Li Wei was not well known among the guards of the Divine Palace, he was able to enter the Divine Guardian squad. His strength was not weak. Even if his cultivation was suppressed when he traveled through space, he would not be chased by a Golden Core adept. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.